Chapter 1971. Then, I'll go to the Duke's mansion to pass the order. Princess Mou attached great importance to this matter, and wanted to personally pass the order to the Duke's mansion. Every Duke had set up a temporary mansion in the imperial capital. Moreover, 99% of them lived along the Kanglan River. This was a recognized land of spirit veins. How could the Duke miss it? Of course, they also had real mansions in their fiefs. However, the hidden dragon trials were approaching, and the dukes and disciples had come from all over the country to gather in the imperial capital and live in the temporary mansions in the imperial city. No. Let Guochuandong handle this matter, Jiang Tian said in a deep voice. When a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs will ascend to heaven. Moreover, Guochuandong was not a chicken or dog, but Jiang Tian's fellow countryman in the Black Sun Star Field. Now that Jiang Tian had become the Grand Tutor, how could Guochuandong not benefit from it? He was now the butler of the Grand Tutor's mansion. Soon, Guochuandong walked over and bowed respectfully. Grand Tutor, you summoned me. What orders do you have? Go to the various dukes' mansions and inform them that there will be a banquet tonight at the Grand Tutor's mansion. A certain cup of wine will be served to entertain guests from all over and discuss matters of loyalty to the imperial family. No duke is allowed to be late. Anyone who disobeys will be beheaded, Jiang Tian said casually. After a pause, Jiang Tian said, also give a jade slip to Zhenyuan Ho. Yes. This jade slip was actually Jiang Tian's decision to change the fief system to a county system, and asked Zhenyuan Ho to be prepared and cooperate fully. Yes, I understand. Guochuandong was excited and full of confidence. So excited that the fat all over his body was trembling. Jiang Tian had displayed the power of a saint, and his achievements were brilliant, shocking the empire and making his name known throughout the continent. In the empire, he was second only to one person, who dared to disobey him. As Jiang Tian's #1 henchman, how could he not be happy to be able to show off in front of the Duke and hold his head high? Big Black, you go do something too. Jiang Tian smiled as he looked at the large black dog in the pond. Suddenly, his expression darkened, and the corners of his eyes twitched. He gritted his teeth and said, if you don't exercise, you'll be so fat that you won't be able to run anymore. This brat washed himself until he was shiny and slippery. He picked a huge lotus leaf as a boat and laid on it. He wore sunglasses made from black crystals and comfortably sunbathed. He was already making heavy snoring sounds. He simply didn't know how to enjoy himself. Jiang Tian's foundation in the empire became more and more solid, and the large black dog's life also became better and better. Every day he would eat a bucket of spirit pills, and his body was round and plump. His stomach was almost touching the ground. Most importantly, this kid was becoming more and more timid. Previously, when the people from the Lin Mansion and Jiangbei were besieged by the demons, this brat had said that in the chaos he didn't follow the young mistress and took the wrong path. In fact, he had run away by himself. Master, what are you saying? I'm very thin and weak now. I think I'll need to increase the amount of food I eat every day. 1 bucket of spirit pills isn't enough. I'll need 5 buckets. You're not wrong. It's good to be a little fatter. Put in half a kilogram of dragon blood and cut 3 kilograms of dragon meat for Bebe. The little girl is still growing, Jiang Tian said with a smile. Jiang Bebe's physique was special. Her growth speed was extremely slow, and even her mental development was like that of a child. However, the large black dog had the bloodline of the purple gold true dragon, and his flesh was a great supplement. Jiang Tian often drained his blood and cut his meat for Jiang Bebe to eat behind her back. As a true dragon, his recovery ability was amazing. The large black dog would immediately return to his original state, so Jiang Bebe didn't notice from beginning to end. Otherwise, she would definitely cry. She's a wet nurse, I'm a blood daddy. Every time the large black dog cut his meat and let his blood flow, he would exaggeratedly cry out in pain and wail. Master, I'll go right now and train. At this moment, when he heard Jiang Tian's words, the large black dog immediately stood up in fright. Then, with a shake of his body, he transformed into a young man with long arms and legs. He had prominent horns on his head, dark skin, cunning and lively eyes. He had long reached the nascent soul stage, and could transform into a human. However, he was especially lazy and unwilling to use his magic power. He often maintained the natural form of the large black dog. He even forgot that he was originally a true dragon. Bring the advisor's token. Jiang Tian threw a token to him. Okay. Big Black strode away. The residence of the Duke of the Northern Frontier in the Imperial City was filled with the exotic atmosphere of the land of ice and snow in the extreme north. It was made of 10,000-year-old ice jade collected from the ice spring of the North Sea. It exuded a strong cold air and had a strong fluctuation of ice and snow. The area within a radius of 5 kilometers was covered in frost and snow. In the back garden, there were many jade palaces. It was like a world of ice and jade. Above the orchids, there were sparkling ice strips, and above the pine and cypress, there were fluffy snowballs. The wind and snow blew, and the branches and leaves swayed. Beautiful silver bars and snowballs fell to the ground, and the snowflakes fluttered in the wind. Reflecting the bright sunlight, the snowflakes formed a colorful rainbow. In the midst of the wind and snow, a young man about 16 or 17 years old was flying in the air, practicing a cultivation technique. With a wave of his hand, the ice and snow law condensed and understood everything in the world, cutting off all vitality. Even the nascent soul could be disintegrated. It was Bai Zhanyun. The young duke is really a genius of the empire. Last time, the young duke was seriously injured by advisor Xiqing. His dantian was broken and his cultivation was destroyed. It seemed that he could no longer reconstruct his dantian, and became immortal. Unexpectedly, the young duke's constitution was extraordinary and his talent was extraordinary. He actually repaired his dantian with the help of 3 sky-mending pills, and quickly ascended to the nascent soul stage. At the side led by Bai Xianlin, several elders of the Bai clan, as well as the invited experts, would occasionally give pointers. Other than Bai Xianlin, who was expressionless and worried, the other elders could not hide the admiration on their faces. Recently, a few major events had happened in the empire. First, the sky-mending pill and other pills of the ancient medicine hall in Icebound City were sold. The effect of the sky-mending pill was earth-shattering. It could reconstruct a broken dantian and repair the golden core. It even had a certain effect on nascent souls and gods. With this pill, not only did the ancient medicine hall's Icebound City branch earn a lot of money, but it also defeated the Fragrant Medicine Hall and a few other small alchemy sects, as well as their subordinate trading companies, to the point that they were unable to make ends meet. Next, the ancient medicine hall was preparing to promote this pill to all its branches in the Saint Origin world. It was said that landlord Wang of the Fragrant Medicine Hall washed his face with tears every day. He was so anxious that his mouth was full of blisters. In the long run, he would definitely lose all his family business. He was looking for cooperation. He wanted to merge the Fragrant Medicine Hall into a divine sect of a sacred ground and become an alchemy hall. In other words, the ancient medicine hall would acquire the entire Fragrant Medicine Hall. Although Jiang Tian had told the ancient medicine hall to ban the Bai family, the ancient medicine hall had no intention of doing so. The ancient medicine hall had indeed terminated their cooperation with the Bai family. However, the Bai family was a duke family after all. They were rich in assets and had extensive connections. They had also bought the 3 sky-mending pills from other families and sections. After Bai Zhanyun took them, the effects were indeed shocking. He was overjoyed. After he had practiced a complete set of cultivation techniques, Bai Zhanyun landed on the ground and bowed respectfully and nervously. Father, seniors, please give me some pointers. Haha, the young duke has reached the peak again and broken through to the nascent soul realm. This time, there is hope for him to take the first place in the Hidden Dragon trials. A soul formation expert said with a smile. He was very pleased with himself. That's right. The young duke's domineering and tyrannical strength is completely inherited from you. This time we have really brought honor to our ancestors. The glory of our Bai family can continue. The other instructors were also full of praise. However, there was no trace of joy on the Duke of the Northern Frontiers by Xianlin's chiseled face. Instead, he frowned and sighed worriedly. Haha, this kid has offended the imperial advisor. How can he take the first place? As long as he can keep his title and land, I will be satisfied. With the imperial advisor here, the one who will take the first place will definitely be that kid from the Lin family. It won't be his turn. Chapter 1972. In the long years, there were several nomadic and hunting tribes in the Beijiang territory. Their people were tough and they coveted the beautiful water and grass of the empire. They formed a royal family and trained troops to invade the territory of the Beijiang territory many times. Therefore, the Beijiang territory was known as the place of war, and the flames of war never stopped. Xianlin, the current duke of the Beijiang territory, killed enemies at the age of 10. He destroyed the Liuxiong tribe in the northeast misty forest, destroyed the 6 nations in the northwest icefield, slaughtered more than 70 cities, crossed the Arctic Ocean, went straight to the enemy's den and killed 30 cities of the Snowdance Empire. He fought all his life and shocked an entire dynasty. He was even more famous than Duke Jinlong of the Nanha territory. He was as strong as a dragon, arrogant and domineering. He was never weaker than others. But at this moment, when he talked about Jiang Tian, he showed a deep fear and his tone was full of helplessness. The others were all silent and didn't say a word. When Bai Zhanyun's Dantian was injured, it could be said that the Bai family was enraged and they wanted to tear Jiang Tian into pieces. A rogue cultivator from outside the river, a servant of the Lin mansion, who was he? How dare a lowly person attack the young lord? But after Jiang Tian displayed his terrifying strength, everyone gave up on the idea. He could even kill the ancient divine beast, the abyss demon dragon. Even if the soul formation cultivators of the Bai family worked together, how could they be Jiang Tian's match? Although the empire was particular about order and there were royal families, dukes, officials and generals, there was an order based on hierarchy. But after all, the empire was founded on martial arts. It paid attention to strength and the strong were recruited and used, giving merits and official positions. Powerful strength could break the order of seniority and allow mortals to rise up. Jiang Tian was now the grand preceptor, second only to one person and above thousands of people. He was equal to the emperor. According to the rules, even the crown prince and the other juniors of the royal family had to greet him as a disciple. Even dukes and dukes had to greet him as if he was the emperor. When Bai Zhanyun heard this, his body trembled. With a face full of shame, he said, "Father, your son was rash back then." After he repaired his Dantian, he was once filled with lofty aspirations. He thought that one day he would be able to catch up and suppress Jiang Tian. He even wanted to kill Jiang Tian for revenge. After all, Jiang Tian was a nascent soul realm cultivator, and he would soon reach the peak of the nascent soul realm. The effect of this pill is too good. Later on, when he learned that the sky-mending pill he had consumed was actually created by the Hall of Ancient Medicine using Jiang Tian's pill formula, he immediately became dispirited, and his fighting spirit plummeted. It's actually Jiang Xiqing's pill formula. At that time, Bai Zhanyun's mood could be described as hopeless. The effects of this pill were so heaven-defying that the ancient medicine hall would probably worship him, as if he were a celestial being from the 9 heavens. Not to mention that it was difficult for him to kill Chen Shi. Even if he did, would the ancient medicine hall let the matter rest? Cutting off someone's path to wealth was like killing their parents. The secular world was like that. Although the secluded sects seemed to be high and mighty, they were not exempt from the secular world. Cultivation relied on materials, resources, and spiritual objects of heaven and earth. Otherwise, why would the secluded sects set up outer sects to run businesses and plunder wealth? Why were most of the sect missions about killing monsters, seizing treasures, exploring, and searching for items? The Hall of Ancient Medicine would definitely take revenge on him. Not to mention that he was only a marquis. Even the crown prince and the emperor would not be able to stop them. After hearing about Jiang Tian's earth-shattering battle at the 100 Flowers Peak, Bai Zhanyun was scared out of his wits. He was shrouded in fear and could not eat or sleep well. He was awakened by nightmares several times. It felt as if he had thought that the other party was a wild dog on the side of the road that had casually kicked him. However, when he took a closer look, he realized that the other party was actually an evil dragon that could devour the heavens and the earth. He barely managed to escape. Who would have thought that that thing would transform into a primordial beast? It was simply terrifying. At that moment, two streaks of light, one black and one gray, flashed across the sky and appeared above the Beijiang Duke residence. The streaks of light suddenly landed, and turned into a fat middle-aged cultivator, and a sly-looking black-faced youth. Several cultivators who were on guard around the residence hurriedly flew into the sky, and flew over. They were fully armed and filled with murderous intent. They questioned coldly, "Who dares to barge into the Beijiang Duke residence's restricted area? Leave quickly, or you will be killed without mercy." "I am Guo Chuandong, the steward of the Grand Tutor's residence." Guo Chuandong's fat face did not change. He pointed at the humanoid purple-gold true dragon beside him and said, "This is the Grand Tutor's disciple, the special envoy Jiang Dahe. Please forgive us for our offense." When the guards heard that, their expressions changed drastically. They landed one after another, and knelt on the ground. Bai Xianlin's face was filled with joy. He tidied his clothes and led the important people of his family to quickly welcome them. He cupped his fists intimately and said with a smile, "Haha, so it is Brother Jiang and Brother Jiang who have graced my humble abode with your presence. Please come in quickly. Your presence brings light to my humble abode, and brings light to my family's lintel." "Duke, you are too polite." Guo Chuandong was so excited that the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. The fat all over his body shook. Too good. This is simply too good to be true. It was as if he had taken a bunch of elixirs in a row. His whole body was light, as if he was about to ascend. Who is he? So he is just a rogue cultivator from outside the river, an out-and-out pariah. When he first came to the mainland, he was worried that he would not even be able to get a household registration and find a place to stay. He would be stranded outside the city and suffer from demon beasts, demonic energy, and evil spirits. He did not expect that following Jiang Tian, he could actually make an important person of the empire, a dignified duke, call him brother. "Come, brothers. Since you are here, you can't leave so easily. Go in and drink a cup of wine. Find a few beautiful women and dance. You have all worked hard to quell the Purple Marquis's rebellion. We three brothers will enjoy ourselves." Bai Xianlin had the air of an ambitious and ruthless person. He could sweep across the world and slaughter tens of thousands of soldiers with his sword. He could also be humble and get closer to people, calling them brothers. "Beauties, those are for eating. What's the point of dancing?" Dahe had a look of disinterest. He wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth and said, "Let's have a batch of elixirs." "How can mere elixirs be worthy of my brother Dahe's noble status? At least a heavenly elixir, and at least 3 batches. Brother Dahe, I can tell at a glance that you are a brave person who is good at fighting, so your appetite is naturally big. As the saying goes, the greater the ability, the greater the appetite." Bai Xianlin was very generous as soon as he made a move. He was very generous and had spent a lot of money. The elders of the Bai family next to him all showed an extremely pained expression. One had to know that the so-called elixirs were for golden core cultivators. As for heavenly elixirs, they were for nascent soul cultivators. They were extremely rare and precious. 3 batches of heavenly elixirs were simply priceless. The annual harvest of a marquis's fief and city might not even be this much. Even if the Duke of Beijiang's harvest was better, it would still take several months of income. The greater the ability, the greater the appetite? Haha. Interesting and very correct. Dahe only felt that it was very pleasant to hear. He patted Bai Xianlin's shoulder and said with a smile, "My master once said that the Duke of Beijiang has not paid tribute for 100 years and is stingy and cunning. I don't think so. You are very generous, at least much more generous than my master. He always asks me to lose weight. My master once said that you have the appearance of an emperor, and that you are ambitious. You think highly of yourself and have great ambitions. You have a disloyal heart. I don't think that is the case. You are amiable and friendly. How could you have a disloyal heart?" Next to him, Guo Chuandong's forehead was sweating and his body was tense. "Brother Dahe, can you be more careful with your words?" Just these few words could arouse Bai Xianlin's rebellious heart. Who knows, he might start a rebellion right away. "Haha, Lord State Preceptor, did you really say that about me?" The smile on Bai Xianlin's face gradually stiffened and his face became gloomy. Chapter 1973. Of course. Dahe stared at him with a faint smile and a calm look on its face. At this moment, the atmosphere suddenly froze and the entire place fell into a strange silence. Only the whistling of the wind was left. Even the sound of snow falling could be heard clearly. An invisible killing intent slowly spread out, cold and heavy. Guo Chuandong suddenly felt suffocated, as if his heart was about to explode and his blood was about to freeze. His eyes were filled with horror and his soul was trembling. His face suddenly turned pale. Aha! Lord Imperial Tutor thinks too highly of me. Suddenly, Bai Xianlin looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. My aptitude is mediocre. It's already difficult for me to rule the northern border and resist the hunting tribes. How can I have the bearing of an emperor? As for my ambition, that's even more of a misunderstanding. I was born in the army and am a boorish person. My mentality is a little irritable and impatient, and my way of doing things is also a little rough. Perhaps I have left a bad impression on the Imperial Tutor. However, my loyalty and patriotism is known by the heavens and the earth. You have to explain it to Lord Imperial Tutor. Sure. Dahe's eyes were clear and there was a trace of laziness, but there was also acute quick-wittedness in this laziness. He laughed and said, Marquis, my Imperial Tutor has a cautious personality, but his heart is not bad. If you are a loyal subject, he will naturally be close to you. Then I'm relieved. Brother Dahe is the Imperial Tutor's first disciple and a close envoy. Your words will definitely be useful. Bai Xianlin seemed to be relieved and pulled Guo Chuandong and Dahe to a spacious hall. Both sides sat down, and Bai Xianlin laughed heartily. Come. Heavenly pill. Spiritual tea. Immediately, a maid brought out a white jade dendrobium containing the 3 heavenly pills and served tea. The tea was green and clear like clouds. The heavenly pill was even more dazzling. The laws intertwined into the shape of a black tortoise, a fire phoenix, an azure dragon, a white tiger, etc. Obviously, the medicinal power was extremely strong. Dahe stared at the dendrobium heavenly pill in a daze for a moment, but did not move. Please. Bai Xianlin stretched out his hand and smiled. Ha! The other important members of the Bai family all smiled, but did not say anything. There was a hint of mockery in the depths of their eyes. Heavenly pills had powerful medicinal effects and contained natural laws. It was no longer an exaggeration to call them the medicine of tigers and wolves. On the contrary, it was a discount. Even nascent soul cultivators could not casually consume it. Generally speaking, one could only swallow a few pills at a time, and it would take months or even years to absorb and refine them. Only after that could one consume the heaven pill for the second time. If one were to swallow dozens of them at once, even a cultivator at the peak of the nascent soul stage, or half a step into the divine transformation stage wouldn't be able to withstand it. Broken meridians, ruptured spirit embryos, and even the explosion of the nascent soul. It was entirely possible for him to go berserk. Basically, there was no hope of survival. I see. Bai Zhanyin finally understood. Father saying that he would treat him to a 3 battles heavenly pill was merely putting on a false show of strength. After all, who could consume 3 heavenly pills in one go? If he couldn't eat it, there was no reason to take it away. This was too unsightly. Then, brother, I won't hold back. Everyone thought that Big Black would retreat in the face of difficulties, eat 2 or 3 pills, and push the rest back. Who knew that Big Black would actually pick up the dendrobium with both hands and pour the heavenly pills into a ditch, swallowing them in big mouthfuls like a whale swallowing a cow? Brother Black, how can you do this? You'll explode and die. Quick stop. Bai Xianlin's expression changed drastically as if he was shocked. He reached out to grab Big Black, wanting to stop it. Why are you so stingy? How can you go back on your words? You already said that you would treat me, and the dishes are already on the table. How can you take them back? Big Black dodged while opening its mouth and swallowing and chewing crazily. I'm not stingy. You can't take it if you eat so much at once. Quick, shut up and leave them with me. I'll keep them for you so that you can eat them at any time. Bai Xianlin used his identity and flew after it. Isn't it just 3 battles heavenly pills? I'm afraid that it won't be enough. Big Black flashed out and went straight into the clouds. Brother Big Black, don't. For a moment, Bai Xianlin and Big Black used their movement techniques and chased each other. It was very lively. In the end, Bai Xianlin even used the ice element domain to forcibly control Big Black, but the latter still broke through the domain and escaped easily. After a few flicks of the fingers, Big Black swaggered back into the hall and lay lazily on the wooden chair. It patted its round belly and let out a satisfied sigh. I'm only half full. Duke, I treated you as a brother, but is this how you treat your guests? This is too heaven-defying. He swallowed the 3 battles heavenly pills without any injuries and his mind is clear. How heaven-defying. This time, all the powerhouses of the Bai family were shocked and even trembled. They looked as if they had seen a demon. He has a special bloodline, and the grade of his nascent soul is extremely high. I'm afraid that his nascent soul is at the divine level, or even higher. Even the old guys who could be called living fossils were extremely shocked, and carefully looked at Big Black. The heaven pellet contained laws and was extremely powerful. Swallowing a heaven pellet into one's stomach was like swallowing a small nuclear bomb. It would immediately explode. Meanwhile, Big Black had swallowed several hundred kilometers in the blink of an eye. In their eyes, they wouldn't be able to withstand it for more than a few seconds before exploding and dying. When he saw Big Black swallowing the pills crazily, Bai Xianlin stopped it in order to save the pills. However, the old guys did not do anything. Instead, they let it happen, or rather they were happy to see it happen. After all, Jiang Tian had once destroyed the Dantian of the young duke. It was impossible for the Bai family not to hate Jiang Tian. However, due to Jiang Tian's strength and status, they were unable to bare their fangs and challenge Jiang Tian. They could not defeat Jiang Tian, but if the people around Jiang Tian died, they would be relieved. Moreover, Jiang Tian could not find fault with them. After all, it's your men who are greedy for heavenly pills. The Duke of Beijiang tried to stop them, but he could not. We don't want this to happen, and we deeply regret it. They even thought of an excuse in their hearts. However, they did not expect it to end like this. Bai Xianlin entered the hall panting. His face was sometimes pale and sometimes red. It was obvious that he had consumed a lot of power just now. At this moment, he looked at Big Black in shock, and could feel cold sweat dripping down his back. It was chilly. He never expected Big Black to be so powerful. He could not catch up with Big Black even after using his ultimate movement technique. Haha, I didn't expect Brother Big Black to eat so much. Next time, I'll prepare a few more heavenly pills for you. Bai Xianlin sighed. At least 5 heavenly pills. The bigger the appetite, the greater the ability. Okay. Everything is negotiable. Bai Xianlin felt the pain and the corners of his eyes twitched. He then wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and smiled. I wonder why Brother Big Black is here this time? Chapter 1974. There is indeed a small matter on the Imperial Tutor's side. Blackie took out the Imperial Tutor's token. Disciple greets the Imperial Tutor. Receive the token. Bai Xianlin and the rest knelt down respectfully. Their attitudes were strict and meticulous. Kneel. Bai Zhanyun knelt too late. The corner of Bai Xianlin's eyes twitched, and he slapped Bai Zhanyun. One of Bai Zhanyun's teeth flew out, and he knelt down hurriedly. Once the Imperial Tutor's token was out, it was as if Jiang Tian had personally arrived. His authority was unparalleled, and he was above everyone else. The royal family and dukes bowed down to him, and could not show any disrespect. In fact, Duke Bai doesn't need to be so formal. Blackie helped him up. Etiquette cannot be ignored. Bai Xianlin pushed a few times before getting up reluctantly. Blackie smiled. The Imperial Tutor has spoken. He is overjoyed at the completion of his new residence and has specially prepared some wine. He wants to invite his colleagues and friends to celebrate the move tonight. The Imperial Tutor's family is waiting for the Duke and young Marquis at the overlooking river residence. Alright, that's how it should be. I will definitely prepare a generous gift and prepare to pay a visit. Bai Xianlin agreed without hesitation. Then brother, I will take my leave. I still have to pass down the order to my family. Dahe did not hesitate and immediately took his leave. Little brother, don't go too far. Bai Xianlin hurriedly tugged at Blackie's sleeve and said, Little brother, I know you have a big appetite and am worried that you won't be full. I will ask the servants to prepare 3 dipper heavenly pills for you. Treat it as a snack. If you are hungry, just eat it. Good brother, I know you are a righteous person and empathize with your brothers. Blackie wiped the non-existent tears at the corner of his eyes and smiled. To be honest, our imperial tutor is from a poor family. The poverty in his early years has left a shadow. He is thrifty and stingy. My rations are often deducted. Life is really hard. At the side, the maidservant had already brought out a dendrobium heavenly pill and stored it in a small green gourd. Your words are biased. As the saying goes, thriftiness cultivates one's body and diligence cultivates one's virtue. It is so for mortals and so for cultivators. Lord Imperial Preceptor is practicing the precepts. Bai Xianlin stuffed him into Dahe's arms and smiled affectionately. However, you're a young man and you're still growing. You still need to eat well. Don't worry, Big Brother will take care of your rations. As long as I have food to eat, how can I let you starve? Just based on these heaven pills, I'll take over the title of Little Brother from now on. Dahe looked very touched. Bai Xianlin smiled and said, Little brother, you and I hit it off at first sight. I have long seen that you are an extraordinary person. Let's become brothers of the opposite sex. In the future, we'll call each other brothers. What do you think? These words were very sincere. You're a duke, and I'm just a servant. How can I bear the responsibility? Dahe shouted excitedly. Swearing an oath in the cultivation world was not like swearing an oath in the mortal world, where one could simply kowtow to a god they worshipped. Instead, it was a spiritual contract that had to be obeyed. Dahe did not want to be controlled by others. Bai Xianlin smiled and said, Brother Dahe, you're obviously insulting me. Let me ask you, what's your original surname? Okay, big brother, what do you mean? Dahe was stunned and thought. How would I know my surname? When I fell to the earth, my divine soul was damaged, and I couldn't even remember my own name. All day long, I played with Shirley and Qing Linzi in the Blood Orchid Waterfall of the Longevity tribe. I was worshipped by those little black ghosts and lived a carefree life day by day. Until I was rescued by my master. He didn't give me a name. But later, when I turned into a big black dog, they got used to calling me Dahe. Your surname is not Jiang. This surname was given to you by Lord Imperial Preceptor, right? Yes, that's right. Dahe nodded. Giving you a surname is not a small matter. It means that Lord Imperial Preceptor highly recognizes you and regards you as his junior. Since you're the junior of Lord Imperial Preceptor, how prestigious are you in the Empire? Even the nobles have to be polite to you. Bai Xianlin said seriously. Is that so? I'm still young, so I don't know the deeper meaning. Dahe's face was shocked, and then he said seriously, Okay, big brother, you think so highly of me. I'm very touched and agree 100%. However, our Lord Imperial Preceptor is narrow-minded. He's afraid that I'll cause trouble outside, so he doesn't allow me to become sworn brothers. At this time, I have to report it to my master first. Okay. Bai Xianlin rolled his eyes and asked, But is Lord Imperial Preceptor's banquet tonight really just for the housewarming? At that time, the chief examiner of the Hidden Dragon Trials, Princess Mou, will also come and talk about the reform of the Hidden Dragon Trials. Dahe returned the favor and offered the information. Do Lord Imperial Preceptor and the Chief Examiner have any new ideas? Bai Xianlin asked. Previously, replacing the virtual exam with actual combat was the Purple Marquis's proposal to stir up the conflict between the dukes. Now that the Purple Marquis was eliminated, the royal family would definitely change. If he knew the ideas of Jiang Tian and Princess Mou in advance, he would be able to make suggestions that were beneficial to himself or make preparations in advance. Brother Dahe, this matter can't be spread. Once Lord Imperial Preceptor finds out, he will definitely blame you heavily. Just as Dahe was about to speak, Guo Chuandong anxiously dissuaded him from the side. He was also an actor. Old Guo, this is my good big brother. Since my good big brother asked, how can I not say? Dahe anxiously shouted with a pale face. Besides, you're just a housekeeper in charge of internal affairs. To put it bluntly, this time you're just my driver. I'm a special envoy, the representative of the Lord Imperial Preceptor outside. Why do you care about me? How can you say anything? Don't think that just because you and the Lord Imperial Preceptor are from the same hometown, you're amazing. I respect you, that's why I call you brother. If I don't respect you, you're just a servant. Guo Chuandong's face was filled with embarrassment and anger. Bai Xianlin hurriedly became a peacemaker and advised, Brother Dahe, how can you say that? Old Guo, don't lower yourself to my brother's level. He's just a straightforward person, he doesn't mean what he says. I apologize to you on his behalf. I'll wait for you outside the residence, hurry up. If the news leaks and reaches the ears of the master, you must remember that this matter has nothing to do with me. Guo Chuandong flung his sleeves and walked out of the door. Damn it, he's still giving me the cold shoulder. He's just a nascent soul cultivator with mediocre aptitude, and only knows how to flatter. If it weren't for the Lord Imperial Preceptor's status as a fellow countryman, how could he be qualified to be a housekeeper? I'm the special envoy of the housekeeper, and I'm in charge of both internal and external affairs. Dahe snorted with disdain. He and Guo Chuandong played the old trick of noble families are as deep as the sea, and the servants are jealous of each other for power. Brother Dahe, you're young and strong, and your future is bright and limitless. As for him, he's already buried up to his neck, and he'll be like this for the rest of his life. Why do you have to care about him and cause trouble for the Lord Imperial Preceptor? Bai Xianlin advised with a smile. He's just an iron simpleton. Dahe scolded again, and then whispered mysteriously, Good big brother, this matter can't be spread out. MOU and the Lord Imperial Preceptor have agreed that the Hidden Dragon trials will no longer be decided by actual combat between the heirs. Instead, it'll be a mission scoring system. Chapter 1975. This must be the brilliant plan of the Imperial Tutor. Bai Xianlin's face revealed a look of admiration as he sighed. The Imperial Tutor is truly a hero of a generation. Cultivating himself, managing the family, ruling the country and pacifying the world, he is truly a talent. These words were not fake, but came from the bottom of his heart. The purpose of the Hidden Dragon trials was to motivate the heirs to cultivate and increase their enthusiasm to prevent the fall and weakness of the dukes. Previously, they used the heirs to bombard the magical equipment and measure the cultivation base, but it was inevitably inaccurate. One must know that cultivation base did not represent battle strength. The reform of the actual combat competition proposed by the Purple Marquis did indeed avoid the drawbacks of inaccurate testing, and could truly reflect the strength of the heirs. However, it would cause the merger of the dukes, especially the fall of the heirs, and serious internal friction. In fact, this was indeed a policy foundation laid by the Purple Marquis to provoke the conflict between the dukes and the imperial family. However, the reform of Jiang Tian and Princess Mou this time avoided the drawbacks of the Purple Marquis reform, and was greatly beneficial to the empire. One must know that in the empire, there were also bandits who ruled over the mountains, and there were also monsters who wreaked havoc. However, in the past, the dukes were all selfish and only wanted to take care of their own land, and did not care about the disasters and chaos of the other dukes' territories. For example, if there was a nest of bandits in the territory of the Jinyuan Marquis, the military might not be able to deal with it, and it would require the joint efforts of 8 to 10 dukes to destroy it. However, the other dukes did not cooperate, and this led to the bandits becoming bigger and bigger. It was even said that there were some bandits that were raised by the dukes to rob other dukes, and were known as black officers and gold-moving strongmen. However, the reform of the mission point system, this time was powerful. If the heirs of the dukes did not do their best to help the imperial family kill the monsters, destroy the bandits and complete the mission, then wait for their titles to be stripped and their territories to be taken back. It's all for the imperial family. Dahe laughed, cupped its fists and left. Bai Xianlin naturally sent him off. After returning to the mansion, the living fossils and consecrated experts of the northern frontier Duke's mansion all gathered together, discussing spiritedly as they waited for orders. There are no weaklings under the tutelage of a saint. This Saint Siqing is very strong. I didn't expect her servants and disciples to be so strong as well. He ate so many heaven pills in one go, but he was not injured at all. Even his expression did not change at all. This is simply too heaven-defying. Everyone was shocked. He is indeed very strong. When I saw that he wanted to eat the 3 battles heavenly pellet in one go, my heart also ached. But even when I used my maximum speed, I actually couldn't catch up to him. He is a nascent soul realm cultivator, but he is also a soul formation realm cultivator. At the very least, he is not weaker than me in terms of the space escape technique. The corners of Bai Xianlin's eyes twitched. He seemed to be distressed and shocked. This child is too terrifying. He's terrible. The Imperial Preceptor and Saint are even more terrifying. For a moment, the sound of people sucking in cold air rose and fell. Bai Zhanyun's expression was even more dejected, as if he had lost his soul. Previously, he had wanted to catch up with Jiang Tian's footsteps, and even wanted to surpass Jiang Tian to take revenge. But now, he sadly found that he was not even as good as Jiang Tian's servant, and even his father, whom he regarded as his idol. However, I find it strange. This boy called Jiang Dahe has never appeared around the imperial tutor before. Could it be that he is an outstanding disciple of a Holy Land's divine sect? He built a good foundation, and became a disciple of Saint Siqing. It makes sense that he has such cultivation skills. At this time, a living fossil gently stroked his long breath and frowned as he pondered. I wonder if he is an outstanding disciple of a Holy Land's divine sect? Yes. What's his background? Everyone was confused for a moment and guessed. However, Bai Xianlin's expression became strange. The corners of his mouth twitched, and he said, "How is he an elite disciple of a Holy Land's divine sect? He is the Imperial Tutor's big black dog." What? It's actually that black dog demon. His strength is actually so strong. Everyone's eyeballs almost popped out, and 10,000 Chinese alligators galloped through their hearts. The Duke's strength is actually inferior to a dog's? The Duke is actually brothers with a dog. One after another, thoughts appeared in their minds uncontrollably. The corners of Bai Zhanyun's mouth twitched, and his Taoist heart was in turmoil. He wished he could kill himself on the spot. He had returned to the peak and even broken through to the nascent soul stage. But his strength was actually inferior to a dog raised by Jiang Siqing. Was there any justice in this world? It's really boring to be a human. It's better to be a dog. Jiang Dahe and Guo Chuandong had their arms around each other's shoulders as they strolled along the streets of the Kanglin River. They ate the snacks they bought from the street vendors, and enjoyed the local customs around them. I feel the same way as you. The more I interact with people, the more I like to interact with dogs. Because they were both foodies and had similar body shapes, Guo Chuandong and Jiang Dahe hit it off very well. Crawl. Jiang Dahe's face instantly darkened. He kicked Guo Chuandong's butt and said proudly, "Do you really think of me as a dog? That's just because I like to keep a low profile. Master told me personally that I want my bloodline to be noble." I know. Guo Chuandong felt that he had said something wrong and smiled embarrassedly. The two of them were extremely fast. They went down the Kanglin River and notified them one by one. The East Gorge Duke Mansion, West Ridge Duke Mansion, and dozens of other mansions also quickly spread the news. Everywhere they went, the two of them were treated with great respect by the host. They drank and chatted merrily with the Duke, called the Marquis brothers, and the lords and ministers avoided them. They also accepted all kinds of bribes and returned with a full load. They ate until their mouths were full of oil. However, they soon arrived at Jin Yuanho's mansion in the capital city. "Oh, Brother Guo, I heard magpies chirping when I woke up early in the morning. I thought that something good was going to happen. I didn't expect you to come. This handsome young man is actually Brother Dahe." When the two streaks descended, the guests, retainers, and guards instantly rushed over one after another, and they greeted them respectfully and warmly. "Brother Dahe, you've lost weight. You should eat more. I have 2 spirit pills here. I bought them from the branch of the ancient medicine hall. Here you go." There were also people who were familiar with him who catered to him and fed him directly. The spirit pills were not cheap, but this was not a loss-making business. Although they were all servants, they were also divided into different ranks. Now that they had become the steward and special envoy of the Grand Tutor's mansion, even the nobles had to be courteous to them. Their status was too high. If they could get closer to Dahe and Guochuandong, they might even have a chance to be protected by Jiang Tian in the future. Haha, hello brothers. Guochuandong was very happy. He indeed felt like he had returned home in glory and was proud and elated. Today, I'm here to see the Marquis on behalf of the Grand Tutor. Please inform him. Guochuandong stated the purpose of his visit. However, before they could inform him, a voice sounded. It was filled with disdain and a hint of coldness that instantly rang in everyone's ears. Instead of guarding your positions properly, you're all gathered together to make a racket. How improper. Everyone turned their heads and saw Lin Dyer flying over with a disgruntled look on her face. Chapter 1976. Miss, it's the butler of the Imperial Tutor's residence, and the Imperial Tutor's special envoy. Yes. A guest hurriedly reported, but a strange look flashed across his face. Cultivators were different from mortals. Their eyes were like torches, and their divine senses were extremely sharp. With Lin Dyer's cultivation, her vast divine senses could cover a radius of 10 miles in an instant. Not a blade of grass, a tree, a branch, or a leaf could escape her detection. She naturally knew that it was Guochuandong and Dahe who came to send a message, but she deliberately spoke in such a way. Obviously, she was extremely disdainful of the two. We haven't seen each other for a long time. Let's have a chat. Many of the guest elders, and guards had awkward expressions on their faces. They were confused, or rather, they felt that it was unreasonable. When the Lin family was attacked by the demon clan, Guochuandong and Dahe had both made great contributions to the safe evacuation of the Lin family disciples. Jiang Tian had saved Lin Dyer's life. Even the entire Lin family relied on Jiang Tian's support to survive the crisis. Otherwise, it would have been destroyed long ago. For Jiang Tian's sake, Lin Dyer should not be so rude. Dahe's face turned cold. He took out the Imperial Tutor's token and said seriously, "The Imperial Tutor has given an oral order to the Imperial Tutor. Why don't you open the door and welcome him?" Haha, with a broken token. Why are you pretending to be a big wolf? What Imperial Tutor or saint? You're just a guest of the Lin family. Lin Dyer's pretty face turned serious, and she directly scolded. These two are just rogue cultivators and a dog from outside the Milky Way. What do you have to talk about? Hurry up and leave. She looked around again and said coldly. Guochuandong was originally going to greet them with a smile, but in an instant, he was embarrassed and frowned. What an unpleasant word. Even with his generous personality, he could not help but secretly curse brainless woman in his heart. Not to mention, Jiang Tian's identity was different from before. Lin Dyer's words were disrespectful and could even be sentenced to death. Even if everyone did not argue with her, her words were extremely inappropriate. Her words were condescending, revealing her disdain for guests and rogue cultivators from outside the Milky Way. Those present were guests and guards, and many of them were from outside the Milky Way. Wouldn't these words make people's hearts turn cold? One had to know that the public opinion was very important. That's right, he's just a servant. He doesn't dare to disobey your eldest Mississippi, but they usually don't show it, and take your salary peacefully. It's only at critical moments like the last time when you were faced with a disaster, but they didn't put in any effort. It could even be said that they switched sides at the last moment and attacked you. What can you do? She's in a high position and grew up in a noble family. She's been influenced a lot, but she doesn't know how to use people's hearts. She doesn't know how to win people over. Marquis Lin has been wise all his life. How could he have given birth to such a foolish daughter? Guochuandong sighed in his heart. Yes, young miss. Sure enough, the guests, retainers, and guards all revealed expressions of displeasure, but they didn't refute and scattered like birds and beasts. Let's go. Lin Dyer said casually as if nothing had happened. Wait. Dahe shouted with a solemn face. What happened? Lin Dyer gave Dahe a contemptuous look. She didn't expect this dog demon to look quite handsome after it turned into a human. Lin Dai. Do you know that when I went to the Duke of Beijiang's mansion just now, Bai Zhanyin was almost beaten to death by the Duke of Beijiang because he was a little slow in kneeling. When the state preceptor's token is out, it's as if the state preceptor is there in person. The state preceptor is second only to one person, and above everyone else. The royal family kneels before him and welcomes him respectfully. You saw the state preceptor's token and dared not to kneel. That's a serious crime. You even dared to speak irresponsibly and speak rudely. Lin Dai, or I'll give the state preceptor face and not kill you. But remember, there won't be a next time. Dahe's eyes twitched as he shouted coldly. He was extremely angry. However, although Blackie had all kinds of problems, there was one thing that made him absolutely loyal to Jiang Tian. He even knew to consider from Jiang Tian's point of view. He knew that Jiang Tian had deep feelings for the Lin family and would never kill Lin Dai. Therefore, even if he wanted to tear Lin Dai into pieces and make her into spicy strips, he could only endure. Oh, I have to kneel. I'll definitely kneel next time. Lin Dai was not afraid at all. Her mouth curved into a disdainful smile. It's just that you said I spoke irresponsibly and spoke rudely. I don't understand. Didn't the state preceptor become a guest of our Lin family? I'm telling the truth. Moreover, as the saying goes, heroes are not afraid of low birth. I'm afraid the state preceptor doesn't mind this, right? How can you say rudely? Although she did not know why Jiang Tian was so protective of the Lin family, she was sure of this. Jiang Tian had deep feelings for the Lin family, and would never allow Dahe to kill her. Dahe also understood this and did not dare to kill her. Haha, sharp-tongued little girl, the state preceptor's ritual is complicated. Don't let me find out that you're negligent. When that time comes, I'll spank you. Dahe shook his sleeves and revealed his white teeth. He grinned. Moreover, do you really think Sage Xiqing won't dare to kill you? That's not necessarily true. On 100 Flowers Peak, Sage Xiqing repeatedly slapped you. She's only one step away from killing you. I know. Thinking of this, Lin Dyer was so frightened that her delicate body trembled. She did not dare to say anything more and obediently led the way. Soon, in an elegant house, Dahe and Guochuandong also met Lin Hanqing and his son. Brother Dahe, brother Gua. I didn't expect the two of you to come so suddenly. Please forgive me for not coming out to meet you. Lin Hanqing was full of enthusiasm, and was very respectful and polite. Things were different now. In the past, Guochuandong and Dahe were servants of the Lin family. But now, they were the steward and special envoy of the state preceptor's residence. Even the crown prince and other members of the royal family, as well as the 4 dukes, had to treat them with respect, let alone a marquis. In the evening, the state preceptor's residence will host a banquet, and invite the dukes and successors to congratulate the state preceptor on his move. Dahe said concisely and smiled indifferently. Just for the sake of moving in? What exactly is it for? Lin Hanqing asked directly. After spending almost a year with Jiang Tian, he knew Jiang Tian's personality. Jiang Tian disliked red formalities. This time, it was very unusual. However, Dahe immediately said, Marquis, if I remember correctly, Duke Nanha's residence is nearby. Send a message as soon as possible and invite him and Miss Goyu here. I will tell you together. Okay, I'll go now. Lin Yang floated away. Why do you want to tell me together? Lin Hanqing asked. Marquis, the matter is important and confidential. Try to avoid leaking the news. I won't say it a second time, just say it together. Dahe sat lazily on the chair, eating the elixirs sent by the servants as if they were jelly beans, and said slowly. Lin Hanqing's face suddenly became solemn. Dahe had always been mischievous and lively. Today it was so serious that it was definitely not a small matter. Pretending to be mysterious. Lin Dian curled her lips. She didn't think anything big would happen. Marquis Purple Robe's rebellion had just been quelled, and the general situation was just settled. Jiang Tian had also just assumed the position of state preceptor. At this time, what he needed was stability. Logically speaking, how could Jiang Tian dare to act rashly? A moment later, Fang Jinlong and Fang Goyu also rushed over. Brother Dahe, you can speak freely. After a series of greetings, Lin Hanqing immediately activated a restriction to prevent the detection of divine sense. The state preceptor wants me to greet the 2 marquises and several successors. Dahe glanced at the crowd and smiled. At the banquet, the state preceptor intends to abolish the feudal system and set up a county system. He will deprive the dukes of their titles and fiefs and change them into civil officials and military generals. Otherwise, they will be killed without mercy. As soon as these words came out, there was a dead silence. Everyone's eyes almost popped out. Chapter 1977. The heirs of the dukes will be stripped of their titles and will participate in the hidden dragon trials with the commoners. They will be given official positions based on their performance and results. Big Black said calmly. No one had thought that Jiang Tian would have such courage, or rather be so reckless and forceful. Not long after he became the imperial teacher, he immediately carried out such a bold and decisive reform. It could be said that this was a huge reform, like the creation of the heavens and the earth. It involved the interests of all sides. All the major forces were unable to calm down. If Siqing wants to carry out this reform, then it is equal to becoming the enemy of all the dukes. It is very dangerous. Why are you so anxious? Lin Yang was suddenly very anxious, sweating for Jiang Tian's safety. Cutting off one's path to wealth is like killing one's parents. Titles and fiefs are the foundation of the dukes' lives. If they were stripped by Jiang Tian, how could they not rebel? If many dukes acted together against Jiang Tian may not be able to withstand it. Even if they did not act immediately, but one could imagine that the smoke of war would rise everywhere, and rebellions would occur frequently. One must know that the dukes have millions of soldiers. Even the imperial power may not be able to suppress them. The Purple Marquis is connected to the 10,000 Demon Palace. What about the other dukes? They also have their own sects as their backing, and even the shadow of the divine sect. If these sects participate in the struggle of the empire, then it will be a complete mess. Big Black did not change his expression, smiling. Young Marquis Lin, don't worry. You have never truly seen my master's strength. Moreover, my master's actions seem to be like moving clouds and flowing water, unpredictable and without order. But in reality, he has always been meticulous, watertight, and has never failed. When these words came out, everyone was also speechless. Carefully recalling Jiang Tian's many deeds, he was indeed worthy of the evaluation of meticulous, watertight, and has never failed. The imperial teacher is so bold. Does he want to rewrite history? Fang Jinlong's face suddenly froze, very sincerely saying, as a duke, my heart is also very conflicted. On one hand, I deeply know that the feudal system is not beneficial to the development of the empire. The county system is the future of the empire. The dukes have taken the opportunity of the commoners. But on the other hand, I naturally don't want my fief and title to be taken away. It's naturally very comfortable. He looked at Lin Yang worriedly and said, Lin Yang, in particular, what I am most worried about is that Lin Yang's qualifications are mediocre. Once he is deprived of his title and fief, will he be able to make a name for himself? Her daughter and Lin Yang have a good relationship, so she can't stop them. He also regarded Lin Yang as his future son-in-law. Moreover, Crown Prince Dongfangding also rewarded Fang Goyu. His feelings for Fang Goyu were very clear. Will he use this reform to suppress Lin Yang, this love rival? Father-in-law, you're underestimating your son-in-law. Right now, I'm only one step away from nascent soul. Among the heirs of the feudal lords, I can be considered a genius. It won't be a problem for me to become a general. Lin Yang was full of confidence. Lin Yang, you haven't realized where the real revolution of this hidden dragon trials is. That was, the heirs of the dukes would compete with the commoners. Among the commoners, there were 10 times or even 100 times more geniuses than the heirs of the dukes. There are thousands upon thousands of nascent soul cultivators in the empire. Lin Hanqing sighed and said with a frown. Indeed. Hearing this, everyone's hearts trembled. Now the heirs of the feudal lords would face 10 times, or even 100 times more competition than before. The probability of them being able to protect their existing interests was only 1% of the original. Lin Hanqing smiled bitterly. If this reform is delayed for another 10 or 20 years, when Lin Yang enters mid-nascent soul, then it will be much safer. He was just sighing with emotion, but he also understood that this was completely unrealistic. Now Jiang Tian was second only to the emperor, and above tens of thousands of people. How could he have the right to control Jiang Tian? At this moment, Lin Dai frowned and said, "Big Black, can you report to the imperial tutor and have him delay this reform by 10 years and continue the old system of enfeoffment? I'm not doing this for the personal benefit of the Lin family, but for the sake of the imperial tutor. If the feudal lords rebel, he will be a sinner for all eternity. It can even be said that he will die. Dai, be careful with your words." Lin Hanqing and Fang Jinlong both shouted harshly. Lin Hanqing was so scared that he was sweating profusely. He apologized to Big Black. "Big Black, it's all my fault for not disciplining her. That's why she has developed such a frivolous personality. Don't be angry. After this, I will punish her well." Under the pressure of her father, Lin Dai did not say anything, but she was not convinced at all. This Jiang Xiqing, if the Lin family had not taken her in, she would have been just a rogue cultivator outside the river. She would have been homeless. She would have even been devoured by demons and monsters. How could she have the position of the imperial tutor now? In fact, with Jiang Tian's strength, even if he went to those holy lands or holy sects, he could be a giant or an elder. Jiang Tian did not come to the Lin family for many benefits. He came to the Lin family to make up for the kindness of his previous life. However, Lin Dai was a willful and narrow-minded person, so she did not think of this at all. Now that he has become the imperial tutor, he has turned his back on us. When making such a national policy, did he not consider the interests of the Lin family? What an ungrateful, heartless and ungrateful person. Thinking of this, Lin Dai was even more depressed and angry. Her disgust and dislike for Jiang Tian reached an unprecedented level. "It doesn't matter." Dahe was not angry and said indifferently, "In fact, I know your concerns, but I think, with the wisdom of the master, he has already thought about it. Moreover, the master has always been loyal and righteous. How can he ignore your interests? However, the master still carries out the new policy that seems to violate your interests. Do you know why?" He sipped his tea and glanced at the crowd. Everyone shook their heads. Lin Hanqing said with a smile, "Brother Dahe, please enlighten us." "I don't want to enlighten you. It's just that I have been following the master for a long time, and have been influenced by many of his ideas. I know something about it," Dahe said calmly. The master has always believed that he is the only one who can control everything in the world. Everything else is fleeting. In this world, strength is the most important. In addition to strength, cultivation methods and unique skills, and companions that can help each other, everything else is fleeting. Because the strength is too weak, it can be lost at any time. If the strength is strong, it can be obtained at any time. Authority, wealth, and the reverence of all. Groups of servants and numerous disciples. You possess a paradise, reside in a holy land of cultivation, and even control a vast expanse of land and territory. You can enjoy it, but don't be addicted to it, and don't be restrained by it. These things, if you have magic skills and strength, even if you lose them, you can still get them back one day, right? Worldly possessions, don't despise them when you see them. Don't be discouraged when you lose them. You can get what you want and lose it when you want. Only then can you be free, and detached. After that, he looked at the crowd with a smile. Chapter 1978. I am the only one who can control everything in the world. Everything else is just floating clouds. Wonderful. Especially the word floating clouds, it's extremely vivid. Clap. Fang Jinlong murmured in thought. Suddenly, he slapped his thigh and said excitedly, "It's really better to listen to your words than to study for 10 years. Brother Dahe's words are simply the truth of the world. Without strength, what's the use of guarding the title and wealth? It's just a fat sheep at the mercy of others. It's futile to invite a fatal disaster. If you have strength, like those masters of the saints who have mastered the law and contacted the great way, you can suppress the country with the power of heaven and earth. Even if the emperor sees you, he has to kowtow 3 times and 9 times. How free and unfettered you are. It's just a piece of cake for you to get the throne. The territory of a country is also a piece of cake for you. I didn't expect Brother Dahe to have such a great insight. He was full of praises. He really felt like he was enlightened and had a sudden epiphany. Haha, it's not worth mentioning. You flatter me. You flatter me. I learned it from my master. Dahe was both smug and embarrassed. At worst, I'll start all over again. Lin Hanqing also figured it out in an instant. With strength, one could have everything. Indeed, the feudal system was not conducive to the growth and development of the Eastern Empire. It had been 3,000 years since the ancestor of the Lin family followed Dongfang Run, established the country, and was conferred the title of duke. He couldn't lie on the merit book for the rest of his life. If the descendants of the dukes didn't live up to expectations, and just enjoyed the fruits of others' labor, not only would they block the way for the common people to rise, but the empire would also become weaker and weaker. Moreover, the descendants of the dukes would also become useless. It was okay for a good-for-nothing like Lin Yang to be harmless to humans and animals. There were even some descendants of the dukes who were arrogant and lascivious. They took pleasure in bullying men and women, which made the people miserable and full of complaints. In this world, there were not only contradictions between the imperial family, the dukes, and the common people within the empire. There were also contradictions between the empire and the sects, as well as between the empire and the empire. As the saying goes, without the skin, where can the hair attach to? If the empire was weak for too long, it would be like a fat sheep walking in the jungle where wild beasts roamed. Sooner or later, other countries would see its weakness and incompetence and show their sharp claws and teeth. However, his train of thought was also more grounded. Obviously, it was not as magnificent as Fang Jinlong's. As long as Lin Yang inherits 1 or 2 unique skills from the sage, even if he is only a county magistrate at the beginning, as his strength improves, he will be able to reach a high position. Alright, just remember the imperial tutor's instructions. Dahe nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile. However, I still have a little trick on my side. During the banquet, you will do your best to cooperate and put on a good show with the emperor and the state preceptor. As long as the emperor or the crown prince shows any intention of removing your fiefs and titles, you must immediately hand over your fiefs and titles. At that time, our state preceptor will have all the reasons to use you as an example of loyalty and patriotism. It would be much more reasonable to kill those disobedient dukes. We will also give you benefits. A sinister and cunning expression appeared on his tanned and young face. Since the torrent of history is unstoppable, why don't we add fuel to the fire? Fang Jinlong and Lin Hanqing were both decisive people. They looked at each other, and immediately agreed. However, Lin Dai-er's face was very ugly. She snorted coldly in her heart. This Jiang Xiqing is really vicious and hypocritical. She wants us to hand over the inheritance of our ancestors, the fiefs that we fought for with our swords and spears, and the titles that we exchanged with blood and bones. And she wants us to look very happy? She is too unscrupulous. She is really a slave of 3 surnames. She has forgotten her roots. Lin Dai-er was very annoyed. The state preceptor also knows that Lin Yang and Miss Goyu have a deep relationship. However, the crown prince Dongfangding is also quite fond of Miss Goyu. I am afraid that one day, he will obstruct and even eliminate the Lin family. Dahe's face suddenly became cold as he said in a deep voice. At the mention of this, the faces of Lin Hanqing and the others all changed wildly. In fact, this was a big stone in their hearts. A difficult problem to solve. They had also discussed it before, but there was no solution. They did not doubt Dongfangding's courage and decisiveness. Now that the vassals were in power and each had their own ulterior motives, he still needed the Lin and Fang families. Once the vassals were pacified and he stabilized the country, he would definitely force Fang Goyu to marry him. If the Lin family dared to resist, he would absolutely destroy them. As long as the Lin family shows loyalty at the housewarming banquet, the state preceptor can immediately ask the emperor to grant a marriage. Eastern Lu looks at the big picture and ignores personal relationships. When the time comes, even the crown prince can't stop him. He can only hold his nose and bear it. Dahe said in a deep voice. This is a brilliant plan. Lin Hanqing and Feng Jinlong both slapped their thighs, as if they had been enlightened. At this time, Eastern Lu desperately wanted to take back the power of the vassals. This was more important than anything else. The most ruthless royal family. In Eastern Lu's eyes, personal relationships were not even worth a mention. In his opinion, so what if Dongfangding didn't marry Feng Goyu? What was the difference between the daughters of other families? However, if we support the state preceptor and voluntarily hand over our power and fiefs, what if the emperor doesn't accept the state preceptor's suggestion? What if the crown prince also resists? Who will be responsible for our family's losses? Lin Dai questioned coldly. Hearing this, even the usually good-tempered Guo Chuandong couldn't stand it. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth, the muscles on his face bulging. Why was this woman so confusing? She was talking as much nonsense as farts. Although the state preceptor had risen from the Lin family, had he ever received any favor from the Lin family? He had been helping the Lin family all this time. The state preceptor didn't owe the Lin family anything. He had saved you out of kindness, but it was also reasonable that he didn't save you. In the end, you were still giving him face. Don't say too much. Everything is up to the heavens. There's no such thing as a perfect plan in this world. Lin Hanqing said hurriedly. We've already engraved the state preceptor's willingness to worry about the marriage of the Lin couple. How can we ask for more? Feng Jinlong also said. It was like a drowning person was about to drown. Everyone else was either watching from the sidelines or helpless to do anything. At this time, someone was willing to help. However, the drowning person was asking the rescuer to guarantee that he would be saved. Wasn't this nonsense? Dahe frowned and his eyes were cold. Lin Dai, had always been like this. If she was facing a sage-level expert, she would be timid, like a believer meeting a god, not daring to disobey. However, she was sure that Jiang Tian would not kill her because of his feelings for the Lin family. Therefore, she became more and more unscrupulous. He said calmly, the state preceptor's strength is obvious to all. He is respected by the world. His words can be the law of the world. As long as he proposes the county system, I'm afraid the world will regard it as a standard and scramble to be loyal to him. The state preceptor told me in advance that he doesn't really need your support. He just hopes that you can react quickly in this mighty torrent of history, seize the opportunity, and take advantage of the situation to gain something. The Lin family and the Feng family are the first to support him. They will gain face and benefits. If you don't support him, you will lose face, lose your benefits and lose real benefits. Dahe's tone became a little more serious. Its eyes were arrogant, as if Lin Hanqing and the others were just a group of small potatoes that it could crush by raising its hand. Why does the state preceptor need the support of a few ants? Those who try to stop the chariot will be killed. After that, he snorted and left, leaving Lin Dai stunned on the spot. Chapter 1979. Brother Dahe, let me see you off. Dai spoke rudely. You're a magnanimous person. Don't be angry. Lin Hanqing, Feng Jinlong, and the others all went out to see him off. Lin Dai stood stiffly in place for a long time, her glazed eyes finally regaining their luster. She doesn't know anything. She's just talking nonsense. Why would I stoop to her level? Dahe's disdainful voice came from afar. I don't know anything. Hearing this, she shook her head. A mocking smile appeared at the corner of her mouth as she muttered to herself. A mere dog dares to bare its teeth at me. It's ridiculous. Is this what it means when a man achieves the Tao? Even his chickens and dogs will ascend to heaven? However, you've only been on this continent for a short time. You don't know the vastness of the world and how deep the waters of the empire are. Which Duke doesn't have the backing of a hidden sect. It's just that no one is willing to show their sharp claws until it's time for a life and death battle. You're wrong. It's inevitable that the royal family will weaken day by day and eventually collapse. It's hard for the empire to recover. It's not something that you, Jiang Xiqing, can change. It's not like the royal family doesn't have any saints. However, can they change the situation of the rise of the dukes and the collapse of the royal family? In history, starting from Dongfengjie, there were countless outstanding talents, including the royal family and the ministers. They were impassioned and wanted to abolish the feudal system, but in the end, they all met with reality and died. They were the laughingstock of the world. As she spoke, her eyes were filled with determination. In the imperial preceptor's residence. This little girl is too disgusting. If it's not for master's sake, I'll cut her into pieces. Jiang Dahe landed while cursing. How's the situation? Come in and we'll talk. Suddenly, a voice appeared in his mind. It was Jiang Tian telling him where he was. Yes. Dahe's face turned serious. Following Jiang Tian's guidance, he entered the back hall of the imperial preceptor's residence. As the place where Jiang Tian cultivated in seclusion, this place had been renovated according to Jiang Tian's suggestion. It had tall doors, big windows, and a large area. However, there were very few furnishings, giving people a feeling of loneliness and emptiness. A cloud bed, a pill furnace, a bookshelf, a table, and a treasure pavilion formed the living quarters of an important person. Beside the cloud bed, an exquisite copper stove was lit with sandalwood incense. Smoke rose in spirals from the stove as it hovered nearby. On the other hand, Jiang Tian sat upright on the bed of clouds. His face was blurry as if he was shrouded in green smoke. He couldn't tell if he was old or young, beautiful or ugly, but there was a sense of ethereal Taoist charm and majesty. The space around him seemed to have evolved into a transcendent place surrounded by clear air. Disciple pays his respects to Lord State Preceptor. Even though Dahe had followed Jiang Tian for a long time, and had a lively personality, it couldn't help but lower its head and salute at this moment. There was a kind of trembling that came from the bottom of his heart, producing a feeling of alienation and distance. It was as if he was looking up at a tall mountain that he could not climb. Speak. Jiang Tian's eyes were half closed, and his aura was ethereal and solemn. At this moment, he was like a towering mountain that brought a heavy and oppressive feeling to people's hearts. However, there was a strange emptiness that appeared as if he existed here, but also as if he was far away in the sky. The devil's blade of heaven and earth in his hand was constantly stretching, expanding, and shrinking unpredictably. It had been completely refined by him. Many of Jiang Tian's magic treasures had been tainted by the immortal emperor's 9 heavens divine qi. This was more obvious than any sign. As the immortal emperor who overlooked the Milky Way as if he was looking at the lines on his palm, he could sense Jiang Tian's existence extremely quickly. Unless one day he figured out the immortal emperor's real plan and got rid of the shackles and control the possibility of controlling his destiny, Jiang Tian had to avoid the immortal emperor's observation. Therefore, Jiang Tian had also refined the devil's blade of heaven and earth that he had obtained from Sir God Qiling into a devil sword. As he breathed in and out, all kinds of dharma tides in heaven and earth rose and surged. Even the rhythm of the great Tao was affected and resonated with it. At this moment, his connection with heaven and earth was very strong. He was deeply involved with the Dharma and great Tao, even deeper than ordinary divine transformation realm experts. He had already surpassed the blessing of heaven and earth, of the divine transformation realm. It was as if a small universe had been born in his body, reflecting the heaven and earth outside, surpassing this part of heaven and earth. He was connected with the endless Dharma as vast as the sea and affected the great Tao as heavy as a mountain. He was like an arm that could move his fingers. His divine powers were unpredictable, and he was omnipotent. Beside him, Sir God Nyoben was floating in the void, like the shadow of a candle in the wind, drifting and appearing from time to time. He is only one step away from the divine transformation realm, and he can even reach it in an instant. However, he seems to be suppressing his power on purpose to prolong the path of becoming immortal. He's tempering himself to become a peak-level god, and a divine transformation realm expert of the highest level. He's like an innate god that was born by heaven and earth. It's as if his mind and body have been entrusted to the void at this moment. The heaven and earth inside his body are formed and connected with the outside world. It's as if this part of heaven and earth belongs to him. He has already surpassed the divine transformation realm. This is definitely a characteristic of the void return realm. Even if he's a divine transformation realm expert, he shouldn't be showing it. That's too heaven-defying. He had a human body and an ox head. His face was full of shock and he was dumbfounded, as if he had seen a god. The relationship between the divine transformation realm and heaven and earth. In short, the divine transformation realm cultivators were like the sons of heaven and earth, who had been recognized by heaven and earth. They could mobilize the Dharma and even drive the great Tao, show powerful divine powers, and even punish on behalf of heaven. However, the divine transformation realm cultivators were weaker than this part of heaven and earth after all. They lived in this part of heaven and earth and naturally couldn't surpass it. They were gods in the human world. The relationship between the void return realm cultivators and heaven and earth was, in a word, beyond this part of heaven and earth. They could play with heaven and earth in their hands. Once they entered the void return realm, they would surpass heaven and earth and become saints. That was why they were called sages. At this moment, Niu Ben felt that although Jiang Tian's cultivation was in the nascent soul realm, his small nascent soul was like a small universe in the body of a cultivator of the void return realm. It reflected the outside world, and involved the Dharma and great Tao. It seemed to have the power to destroy the world and turn heaven and earth upside down. This feeling was like watching a 3-year-old child move a mountain. It was incredible. At this moment, the back hall of the cultivation hall was densely covered with arrays, which blocked the detection of divine senses and blocked Jiang Tian's breath. This array was derived from Jiang Tian's art of deceiving heaven and earth. Even people from the 9 heavens immortal realm couldn't sense his existence. There was only darkness and emptiness. It merged with heaven and earth and didn't show up in Jianghu. It was as ordinary as grass and as vague as a stone grain. Jiang Tian also dispersed his art of deceiving heaven and earth, and revealed his full strength, which shocked Niu Ben. The Duke of Beijiang gave me the 5-dipper heavenly pill, and wanted to bribe me. I felt that if I refused, it would make him more vigilant. He would also be cautious about the information he gave me and wouldn't believe everything. Therefore I had to take it. I feel that my pure soul has been tarnished. Dahe sighed and said, I didn't want to be corrupt, but in order to gain people's trust and enter the enemy's inner circle, I had to sacrifice my conscience and reluctantly do it. It had to clean itself first. It's not a bad thing to be in the same world as light. You swallowed so many heavenly pills in one go and still have your head and tail intact. It's not a disgrace to your purple gold true dragon bloodline. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. He looked more human, as if he had stepped into the world of mortals. The previous superior and detached charm seemed to have faded a little. This made Niu Ben's god feel less uneasy. However, in the next moment, when he carefully thought about Jiang Tian's words, he almost jumped up in shock. This brat is actually a purple gold true dragon. He looked at Dahe in disbelief. He felt more and more that Dahe was outstanding. The laws of wind, rain, thunder, lightning, and other laws around him were deeply connected to him. They were extremely submissive and obedient to him. However, he seemed to have also cultivated a method to conceal himself, which was extremely difficult to detect. Oh my God! The purple gold true dragon bloodline is much stronger and purer than the abyss demonic dragon bloodline. That's the strongest divine beast in the universe. I heard that there are more of them in the 9 heavens celestial world. But it actually became Jiang Xiqing's servant. Where did Jiang Xiqing come from? I'm afraid she could only be the reincarnation of a big shot in the celestial world. That's simply killing gods and Buddhas who block his way. He seems to be scheming against the empire's vassals. Sigh, these vassals are in trouble. They're really in trouble. The more Niu Ben's god thought about it, the more he felt that Jiang Tian was terrifying. Sometimes he was bright, and sometimes he was dark. Sometimes he was real, and sometimes he was faint. He was greatly shocked and extremely unstable. Also, the demon king Hanguang of the pantheon of demons was actually the incarnation of Dongfang Jia. He was afraid that the pantheon of demons would also be eliminated by this person. At that time, no one knew how many demons would die. Demon blood would stain the earth. It could be called an unprecedented disaster. No one knew how many demons would die an unnatural death. Thinking of this, Nyoben's god didn't dare to think about it. Chapter 1980. Of course. Other things aside, in terms of appetite, I've never lost to anyone. Dahe stood with his hands on his hips, proud of himself. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and did not comment. However, Dahe did not dare to be cocky for too long. If we reveal our true intentions, the Duke of Northern Frontier will definitely be unwilling, but I see that he is not prepared at all. I'm afraid he will only submit when the time comes. Due to the fall of the four friends of the gorge, the Duke of Eastern Gorge has lost all his strength. I'm afraid he won't have much strength left to resist. He is also full of respect for you, sincerely submitting to you. But the Duke of West Ridge is a little unsure. He seems to be quite confident, as if no matter how strong he is, the wind will clear the mountain. No matter how strong the wind is, he will remain unmoved. Dahe looked simple, but in fact he could see all aspects very clearly. He reported the situation of the dukes in detail. Does the Duke of West Ridge have connections with a sect? Does he have something to rely on? Jiang Tian frowned slightly. Jiang Tian did not believe that the Duke of West Ridge would be so selfless as to not care about his fief and title. It was difficult for people to surpass their own class interests. History also had its own inertia. Even if Lin Hanqing and Fang Jinlong were loyal and patriotic people, and it was fine for them to work for the imperial family, they could not accept the imperial family stripping them of their hereditary titles for no reason. He should have something to rely on. He has nothing to fear. In the previous life, the Duke of West Ridge did not participate in the rebellion of Purple Marquis Shen and Gu. But in the process of the royal family quelling the rebellion, he did not do his best. The ones who really contributed were the Duke of Jinyuanlin family and the Gongfang family. The one who really killed the Duke of Purple Marquis was a veteran saint of the royal family. Therefore, the Duke of West Ridge's strength was not obvious, and his background was unknown. The intelligence system of the Pantheon of Demons has never received any relevant information. Seeing Jiang Tian looking at him inquiringly, the god of Sir God Nyoben quickly shook his head. Jiang Tian nodded slightly, his eyes deep and distant. Even if the Duke of West Ridge did not have a hidden sect as a backer in the previous life, it did not mean that he did not have one in this life. Because after he came to this continent, he had been very low-key and tried his best not to change the course of history. However, the history of the empire had been rewritten. The death of the Purple Marquis was a huge psychological blow to the vassals, so they all had their own ways of dealing with it. Although the remnants of the Marquis of Purple Robe were destroyed in only 3 months, and he had not stopped to prepare for the abolition of the feudal system without any gap, it was already extremely fast. But among the feudal lords, it was inevitable that there would be courageous and resolute people who would quickly respond. For example, he could immediately establish ties with a powerful hidden sect. It's fine. I'm worried that he doesn't have a powerful backer. Otherwise, wouldn't it be too boring if I could just give an order and change the system, and the vassals wouldn't even dare to fart? It would be best if 2 divine sects like the Nine Mysteries sect came to kill me. As soon as Jiang Tian said that, "My lord, you are truly domineering. You have the demeanor of someone who can shock the ages and suppress the world." Nyoben's god was so scared that he was shivering like a quail in the wind. His mouth was full of praise, but in his heart, he was cursing Jiang Tian for being a lunatic. It was simply unreasonable. It was simply too crazy. Divine sects like the Nine Mysteries sect were so terrifying, but he didn't even take them seriously. Chief Arrestor of the Sect of Six Fans, Divine Arrestor Tian Qingjun, is here to meet you. Outside the door, the butler Guochuandong's voice came through divine sense. "Let him in." Jiang Tian's face was indifferent. Because of the prosperity of cultivation and martial arts, the constables of the empire had long been separated from the yamen, and became the Sect of Six Fans. There was a branch in every city, and there was a guard station on every street. It was on par with the yamen, and the offices were usually in the north and south of the city. In the empire's political system, the Sect of Six Fans was a permanent organization under the cabinet. Its status was theoretically on par with the 6 departments, and the chief arrestor could also participate in cabinet meetings. Disciple by Tian Qingjun is here to meet the master of state. A middle-aged man walked in. He was tall and strong, but not clumsy. Like a cheetah, he was full of explosive power. As soon as he entered the rear hall, his expression turned solemn, and he immediately kowtowed 3 times and kowtowed 9 times in a solemn manner without saying a word. Stand up and talk. Jiang Tian calmly accepted his kowtow, and only then did he raise his hand slightly. Yes. May I know why the master of state is looking for me? What can I do for you? Tian Qingjun stood up, but he still held his fists and bowed slightly, extremely respectful. He was dressed solemnly, and his hair and beard were meticulously groomed, revealing his meticulous personality. His bronze face was resolute, and his eyes were reserved and calm. There were many rules floating around him, and there was a resonance with the great Tao. He was also a master of the divine transformation realm. The rules he mastered were mostly related to investigation and pursuit, such as the heavenly eye, soul attack, wind chasing, sky breaking, eagle falcon, and so on. His overall strength was stronger than ordinary dukes like Lin Hanqing, but slightly weaker than first-class masters like Fang Jinlong and Purple Marquis. Recently on the continent, are there any perverted thieves? I want relevant information. Jiang Tian smiled indifferently. Perverted thieves? Tian Qingjun was slightly stunned. Beside him, Niu Ben's deity also had an incredulous expression. Why would you care about perverted thieves when the empire was undergoing great changes and turbulence? However, Tian Qingjun didn't dare to ask too much and quickly said, there are many benefactors like perverted thieves on the continent. Not to mention the continent, even the empire has plenty of them. There are statistics in this disciple's jade scroll. Master of State, please take a look. As he spoke, he took out a jade scroll and was about to open it. I don't need to take a look. Jiang Tian waved his hand and said, the perverted thief I want must have the following characteristics. Firstly, the perverted thief is extremely cruel and often destroys corpses. Secondly, he is proficient in the art of dual cultivation and plucking. The woman is usually a golden core or nascent soul realm female cultivator with a virgin body. Her vital yin, qi, and blood have been plucked clean. Thirdly, he always acts alone and is proficient in the void-splitting law. Jiang Tian was obviously looking for the Thunder Yang sex Zongzi, Yang Dingtian, who wanted to forcefully marry Huang Linger. However, Yang Dingtian originally liked to pluck women, and his whereabouts were secretive. He rarely appeared in the sect. It was extremely difficult for Jiang Tian to look for him in the sect. Jiang Tian's objective was to kill this person when he went out to pluck. However, Yang Dingtian had done too many evil deeds in his life, and the bloody cases on him were too numerous to be recorded. However, he had always been deceiving others. Even when his true appearance was exposed, he was still spurned by the righteous sections. Of course, he wouldn't admit to any old crimes that weren't exposed. Therefore, Jiang Tian might know his true appearance, but he didn't know what crimes he had committed. He also didn't know where he had committed the crimes. Therefore, he could only rely on the clues provided by the 6 fan school to deduce his next move and kill him. N. Reporting to the Master of State, there is indeed such a perverted thief. 10 years ago, he appeared in the Empire's Beijiang Duke's territory, Full Frost City's Red Moon Lake. He calls himself the Lotus Harvester. When Tian Qingjun heard this, his expression turned serious as he spoke solemnly. He specializes in hunting young female cultivators. This thief has a cruel character and is worse than a beast. Every time he plucks a woman, he likes to kill the victim cruelly and cut off the 2 things on her chest as a souvenir to play with at all times. That's him. When Jiang Tian heard this, his heart was moved. How can there be such a savage person in this world? He is simply inhuman. When Big Black heard this, it immediately revealed an angry expression as it yelled with widened eyes. How does your 6 fan school do things? Such an evil and vicious criminal should have been pursued and intercepted long ago. After capturing him, he should have been killed as a sacrifice to the heavens and dismembered into thousands of pieces to comfort the souls of those women who had died tragically. How can we let him live freely until today and harm so many lives? You are right to blame him. Tian Qingjun didn't dare to be disrespectful to Big Black as he sighed and explained. This Lotus Harvester's movement technique is exceptional and can shatter the void. Many people guess that he has a half-step soul transformation cultivation. Furthermore, he is a lone thief who specializes in harming female cultivators. He has experienced hundreds of battles, and his strength is naturally exceptional. Our 6 fan school only has a few soul transformation experts. Most of the constables who investigate the cases are only at the golden core or nascent soul realm. They are lacking in strength. His face was filled with fear and uneasiness. Chief Constable Tian, you don't have to blame yourself. Jiang Tian smiled indifferently and said, you just need to give me the case files of this person and the cases that he is suspected to have committed. In the depths of his eyes, a biting cold murderous intent flashed by. His deduction of the great case file art was extremely exquisite. As long as there were enough precedents, he would be able to deduce the pattern of Jiang Tian's crimes and his next move. When the time came, Jiang Tian would be beheaded immediately. Chapter 1981. Yes, Lord Royal Preceptor. Tian Beiqing quickly bowed and activated his magic power. Light filled the air and formed words and pictures. He copied many jade slips and documents. Tian Beiqing left the original and handed the copied version to Jiang Tian. Then he flattered. This thief has done many evil things and will be punished by God. The saint is merciful and benevolent. He helped to eliminate evil and protect the world. He will be praised by the world and admired by everyone in the future. This matter is very important. You must remember that I am concerned about this case. You must not spread the news of me asking for the documents. Today, I am here to talk to you about guarding the housewarming banquet. Jiang Tian suddenly looked serious and said in a low voice. Yes, I know. I will not spread it. I will rot in my stomach. Feeling a majestic and heavy pressure and hidden killing intent, Tian Beiqing felt as if his soul and body were moving together. Even the gods became stiff. The rules and Daos around him were about to be torn and imprisoned. He could not help but be scared out of his wits. He promised repeatedly. In addition, give me the recent activities of the big sects and aristocratic families that the 6 fan school has found out. Jiang Tian said in a low voice. Of course, this was not a problem. Tian Beiqing quickly took out a copy of a jade slip. Record book. It recorded the activities that the sects and aristocratic families were going to hold in the near future. The 6 fan schools supervised the world and had branches all over the empire. They were like branches with billions of tentacles. Every day, they would report the information they found to their superiors and finally gather it at the headquarters of the 6 fan school. Moreover, they were also in contact with the sects and the intelligence agencies of other countries. Yes, this is it. You can go now. Jiang Tian waved his hand. It was as if spring had returned to the earth and the cold had retreated. Tian Beiqing suddenly felt his body and mind lightened. It was as if an ancient god had moved a huge mountain on his body, with an invisible giant hand. He felt comfortable and normal again. I will take my leave. Tian Beiqing's reverence for Jiang Tian reached an unprecedented level. He bowed slightly and left. Following Tian Qingjuan's departure, the rear hall once again fell into a desolate silence. Jiang Tian sat on the bed of clouds without saying a word. His face was calm and his eyes flickered. No one knew what he was thinking. Only a gentle breeze blew, causing his wide robe to tremble slightly. Whoosh! Suddenly, Jiang Tian slowly raised his right hand and pointed in the air, causing numerous jade slips and documents to float before him. Above it, brilliant light blossomed. Paragraphs of text and pictures appeared in the air, all of which were records of the Lotus Harvester. His profound dual models suddenly lit up and shot out 3 feet of white light. Inside his pupils, there seemed to be many runes wriggling and combining in his pupils, forming 2 colored glazed divine lamps that could illuminate the past, present, and future. They could see through the 9 underworlds and the celestial world to investigate all the causes and effects. Under the illumination of the eyes of Jiang Tian's colored glazed divine lamps, many jade slips flew up and down. Endless pictures and text floated, constantly rearranging and reorganizing. Jiang Tian used the principles of mathematics and the art of planning to summarize the past cases of the Lotus Harvester, find the hidden rules, and deduce the future. On the surface, the Lotus Harvester's crimes were very irregular. He could commit crimes at any time and any place. Apart from the fact that the target was a female cultivator, there were no other common characteristics. However, under the deduction of Jiang Tian's grand case art, the complicated and disorderly appearance collapsed like snow, and the essence within was revealed. It was an unchanging pattern. Found it. The dazzling light in Jiang Tian's eyes suddenly dimmed, and he returned to his normal state. However, a smile appeared on his face. On the 15th of every month, when the northern sky's cross star is the brightest, the Lotus Harvester Yang Dingtian will definitely commit crimes. This is because he cultivates the extremely fierce and violent laws of thunder and fire. After a long time, the evil fire and poisonous thoughts in his heart are extremely strong. In addition, the cross star is a thunder star. Once it approaches the continent, his senses will be stronger, and he must reconcile with his vital yin. Thoughts emerged in Jiang Tian's mind, and his train of thought gradually formed. It's too uncomfortable. He's too uncomfortable. Suddenly, as if one turned into three, the passing me Jiang Tian swayed out. His hair was unkempt, and his appearance was rough and barbaric to the extreme. Seeing this scene, God Nyopai was so scared that he almost exploded on the spot. This was the passing me Jiang Tian who almost killed him on 100 Flowers Peak. However, the passing me Jiang Tian did not pay attention to him. Instead, his eyes were fixed, and he muttered to himself like a madman. The Lotus Harvester's heart seems to be fried in hot oil, and his whole body seems to be burning in a raging fire. Under his skin, there seems to be many burning insects crawling, and his whole body is about to dry up. Only tearing and killing can calm him down. Only his vital yin can extinguish the flames of desire, and only fresh blood can dissipate that feeling of dryness. Go on. You are best at speculating about such vicious and evil deeds. The passing me Jiang Tian stepped out, as if he had traveled through the ages from the end of the void. His face was as handsome as a god, and his aura was even more extraordinary. There was not the slightest trace of dust. His eyes were like the eternal blue sky, and there was not the slightest fluctuation of emotion in them. The passing me Jiang Tian was the collection of Jiang Tian's evil thoughts, and the image of depravity. He was best at standing from the perspective of evil people and understanding evil people. Although the future of the Lotus Harvester he deduced was based on his instinct and intuition, it was more accurate than Jiang Tian's great case art. If one was not crazy, one would not survive. If one did not become a devil and understand his logic, how could one be one step ahead of him? A female cultivator of the law of ice and snow extinguishes the scorching evil fire in my body, so that I will not suffer the pain of thirst. A female cultivator of the water attribute sobers me up, as if I am drinking sweet spring dew. A female cultivator of the wood attribute can nourish my soul and body that is like a dead tree and return to normal. The passing me Jiang Tian was like a lunatic, as if he was a parasite in Yang Dingtian's inner world. In other words, he was Yang Dingtian's soul formation at this moment, equally evil. Jiang Tian's true body nodded. Although Yang Dingtian's crime areas are also in other countries, they are more in the Eastern Empire, accounting for 80%. The Northern Territory Duke's territories have the most crime records. Among them the Red Moon, Hessa, and Giant Rock cities have more. The remaining cities have 1 or 2 crimes occasionally, but the frequency is not high. Jiang Tian glanced at the passing me Jiang Tian and said, "What do you think, passing me?" The most recent crime was also in Hessa City. The passing me Jiang Tian nodded slightly and spoke with a calm expression, as though he was expressionless. This is because the Northern Territory Duke's territory has a vile environment, complicated terrain, and few pedestrians. It is the most convenient place for him to commit crimes and hide. Yang Dingtian's movement technique might be fast, but he mainly cultivates the thunder and fire attribute cultivation technique. He is definitely not proficient in long-distance running. Therefore, he must have a nest in the Northern Territory Duke's territory. As the saying goes, a crafty rabbit has 3 burrows. If I can find a nest, it will be much easier to capture and kill this person. Let me twist this kid's head and dismember his body into thousands of pieces. How dare you try to lay your hands on my precious Ling? Do you think I don't exist? The passing Mi Jiang Tian rubbed his palms, but deep in his eyes, there was a flash of greed and passion. No. The passing Mi Jiang Tian shook his head and spoke resolutely. Previously at the 100 Flowers Peak, you provoked Fairy Qingjue and caused me so much trouble. This time, if you go play in the mortal world again, I wonder what kind of disaster you will cause. Perhaps your evil thoughts and evil heart might be hooked by Yang Dingtian and fall into eternal damnation. Haha, you can even see through this. The passing Mi Jiang Tian wasn't convinced and snorted. Those young ladies are already fish on the chopping board. I saved their lives. How can I not collect some interest? What's more, this young master is gentle and decent. I respect women and am proficient in starting from the depths of the body to achieve the resonance of the soul. I will definitely let them have a great time. He spoke proudly and complacently. As long as it is a woman, as long as they have intercourse with this young master once, they will definitely be addicted to me and will never be able to leave me again. Aren't all women like that? I am handsome and skilled, so I am flirting and teasing. Yang Dingtian is ugly, so he is violating. Haha. Before he could finish his words, the passing Mi Jiang Tian had already descended from the sky and stepped on him. Shut up. Otherwise I will stomp you to death. The passing Mi Jiang Tian yelled out coolly. The passing Mi Jiang Tian was stomped so hard that all the bones in his body were about to crack. However, he still spoke like a hoodlum. I am speaking the truth. This is an era where looks are important. Women always have double standards and are unreasonable. Once I whip them, they will become obedient. Chapter 1982. Jiang Tian said, Dawa, this time, you will go and kill Yang Dingtian. Remember, you need to hide your tracks and conceal your identity. Don't have any connection with Huang Linger. I'm afraid that the one above the 9 heavens will notice. Got it. Jiang Tian's eyes were deep as he nodded solemnly. Huang Linger came from Earth, so this matter was open and honest. Once Jiang Tian and Huang Linger had a connection, the immortal emperor would be able to figure out Jiang Tian's true identity in a matter of seconds. Jiang Tian didn't want his every move to be watched by a giant of the immortal world for the next hundreds or thousands of years. Dawa, I will be in charge of the back hall. During the housewarming banquet, you will deal with the nobles and suppress the forces behind them. You can kill more people, the more the better. Jiang Tian said in a deep voice. Why? Didn't you dislike me for being reckless and having a strong killing intent? Dawa snorted with dissatisfaction. The giants of the immortal world look down on all the worlds. Their divine senses are as vast as the sea of stars, which is naturally terrifying. However, they have the same limitations as ordinary people. They are far from knowing everything and occupying the past, present, and future. Jiang Tian said in a deep voice. They look down on the lower realm universe just like how mortals go to a library. They first enter the branch library, then enter different areas, then look at the bookshelves, then the book titles, the table of contents, and finally every chapter, paragraph, and text. Unless it's a very interesting situation, the giants of the immortal world won't look down on the lower realm. Even if they occasionally glance at the bookshelves and book titles, they won't open them for a closer look. It's like you would only occasionally glance at an ant's nest on the road, and not squat down to take a closer look. This is the arrogance of a higher life form towards a lower life form. What we need to do is to turn this housewarming banquet into a very eye-catching and wonderful book, or even an exquisite bookshelf full of books. However, the matter of killing Yang Dingtian could only be a small line of words hidden in a lousy book. Only in this way will we be able to avoid the prying eyes of that big shot from the immortal world. Jiang Tian glanced at Shirwa and Dawa, and said coldly. Jiang Tian nodded without any change in his expression. He glanced at the actions of the various sects and families in recent days, and secretly memorized them in his heart. He said, "Shall we start?" "Yeah, I can't wait to kill." Jiang Tian's eyes shone with an ominous glint. He was eager to give it a try. Jiang Tian's real body sat upright on the cloud bed. He nodded slightly and said calmly, You two, let's do it. Remember, this matter concerns our survival and fate. You must be extremely cautious. Yes. Jiang Tian started to leave. When he reached the door, his body changed, turning into a snake that slithered into the grass. When he reached the pond in the back garden, the snake entered the water, startling a group of maidservants who were playing in the water. One after another, they ran to the shore. The snake seemed to have been startled, and with a shake of its body, it transformed into a big koi fish and swam along the river towards the blue river outside the mansion. The blue river was full of spiritual qi, and the water plants were abundant, nourishing all living things. Many creatures had developed spiritual intelligence and were full of wisdom. They were close to becoming monsters. However, they lived together with humans since they were young and were close to humans. They were not killed or expelled by humans. The big koi fish swam to the bottom of the river, avoiding the pecking of the spiritual cranes and the sneak attack of the alligator snapping turtles. At the city gate, it turned into a frog and jumped ashore. After a few steps, it came to the woods and grass. A moment later, a white civet cat came out of the jungle and walked around the trees. Its blue eyes looked left and right, then it kept moving in the shadows, sticking to the ground and walls. Finally, it climbed to the top floor of a restaurant, squatted there, and waited quietly. Suddenly, a flying boat pulled by a wind spirit bird passed by. The white civet cat jumped and landed on the flying boat. There were a few simple words on the flying boat. Imperial Capital, Giant Stone City. The art of deceiving the heavens and concealing the earth is the best at transformation. Diom's 100 transformations are traceless. I think even the big shots of the 9 heavens immortal world can't detect it. Jiang Tian's original body sat on the cloud bed and retracted his divine sense. He sighed with a calm expression, and there was some satisfaction in his tone. It's time for me to appear, right? Jiang Tian's carefree and unfettered nature made Jiang Tian very envious and impatient. Outside the door, various vassals had already arrived. Jiang Tian really wanted to go out and kill. No hurry. We'd better wait for Diom to find clues and make a move at the same time. Jiang Tian's original body was neither arrogant nor impatient. Jiang Tian's current status was very high. He was a dignified heavenly master of a country, and was very important. His housewarming should be quite grand, and the ceremony should be very complicated. To open the mansion door, he had to invite guests and hold a banquet for 10 days and 10 nights. During this period, the vassals would not stay in the Grand Preceptor's mansion, and would not leave. Therefore, Jiang Tian had plenty of time to maneuver. Glancing at Jiang Tian held his forehead with his hand and said helplessly, "You have to change your appearance. Can't you look more like an imperial preceptor? Even if you're a berserk imperial preceptor, you're still an imperial preceptor after all." In the extreme north of the empire, the sky was filled with snow and the sky was dim. The snowflakes were the size of a palm. When they landed on people, they even felt heavy. The streets were covered in snow all year round. The buildings in the city were like ice sculptures in jade, magnificent and moving. The temperature was extremely cold. When people exhaled, the water vapor in them would immediately turn into ice crystals and scatter. The temperature was extremely cold. There were many liquor stores on the streets. Mortals had to wear warm Dharma artifacts to live. Otherwise, they would immediately turn into ice. Under the sky filled with lead clouds, a blue swan bird spread its wings and glided steadily, landing in a post house. On the bird's back, a cloud building that was carved with raging fire runes opened. Many tourists were either yawning listlessly or looking around with curiosity. They were all shocked by the magnificent and cold ice giant city. The wind spirit bird wasn't a high-grade spirit bird, and was mostly used for long-distance voyages by the secular world. Its speed wasn't fast and would take 5 days to reach Giant Stone City. But Jiang Tian had changed his free mount a few times during the journey and arrived at Giant Stone City on the 3rd day. In fact, the place where Yang Dingtian committed the most crimes was Full Frost City. But Jiang Tian naturally had his reasons for choosing this place. The Six Fan School wasn't a group of people that did nothing. Since Full Frost City had committed the most crimes, They naturally set up many sentry posts and constables in Full Frost City. There were over 30 nascent soul constables, and even a soul transformation realm high-ranking constable, who would supervise the investigation and pursuit from time to time. Meanwhile, Hessa City was adjacent to Full Frost City. In between them was a snowy plain that stretched for thousands of miles. It was unobstructed and was also within Full Frost City's range of influence. Furthermore, Yangdingtian had also succeeded twice in this place. Therefore, the city's defense was tighter. Giant Stone City was separated from these two cities by an ice mountain that was thousands of feet tall. Most importantly, this ice mountain was also occupied by demonic beasts and was tainted by demonic chi. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to reach Giant Stone City from Hessa City and Full Frost City. Furthermore, to the north of Giant Stone City was the border and the neighboring country. It was extremely convenient to escape. After all, the Eastern Empire's constables and soldiers weren't allowed to enter other countries as they wished. They had to report the other country's protection and obtain permission. Otherwise, it would be considered an invasion, and the report would naturally require a certain amount of time. By this time, Yangdingtian had already escaped. The orbit of the cross star was getting closer and closer to the continent. The thunder attribute law and Great Tao's fluctuations were intense, interfering with the cultivator's body and mind. Jiang Tian believed that Yangdingtian would soon commit a crime in Giant Stone City. Chapter 1983. A young girl dressed in red fur clothes, about 17 or 18 years old, walked out of the Cloud Tower's cabin door with light steps and walked down the stairs. In her arms, she was holding a white civet cat with an arrogant expression and indifferent eyes. It was Jiang Tian. How can I tease you? You're ignoring me. You're really a proud little cutie. The girl scratched the white civet cat's head and pouted her bright red lips. She was both helpless and fond of the cat. Nan, where did you get this civet cat? Her parents, a middle-aged couple, greeted her with a kind smile on their faces. The man had long arms and legs, and he was tall and big. His hands were covered with burn scars and calluses from frostbite. He wore a protective magic artifact, but the runes on it had been worn out for too long. At first glance, one could tell that he was a low-level mortal who lived a conservative life. I picked it up on the road. It's so cute. The girl ran over excitedly and threw the cat into her father's arms. She hugged her mother's waist and rubbed her head on her mother's neck and face. She said coquettishly, "Mother, I haven't seen you for 3 years after I went to the capital. I really miss you. Don't pick up a living thing of unknown origin. You're not young anymore. How can you be so immature? If it's a violent demonic beast, we'll be in trouble." The man scolded with a straight face, but there was unconcealable pride and love in the depths of his eyes. The man's surname was Lu. Their ancestor was a cultivator from beyond the galaxy with a nascent soul cultivation base. However, he was old and weak. He couldn't find a suitable job, couldn't get merit points, and couldn't earn crystal stones. Naturally, he couldn't get a household registration in a big city. After going around in circles, he was harassed by demonic beasts and bullied by powerful cultivators. After going through all kinds of hardships, he could only settle down in this small city on the border. Giant Stone City was originally a cold place and was not suitable for living. Moreover, it didn't have a large spirit gathering array like the capital and Jianghan City. Therefore, the conditions for moving into the household registration were also very low. Cultivators from beyond the river were not valued in the empire. Moreover, on the mainland, the Great Path was firm and the laws were suppressed. Nascent soul cultivators from beyond the river could only exert the strength of golden core, or even chi refinement. In Grand Boulder City, the status of the patriarch was not high, and he did not have any decent assets or accumulations. He could only hunt some demon beasts and exchange them for crystals and materials, barely getting by. After struggling for dozens of years, he finally married a local female cultivator with a low cultivation base, and had a few children. It could be said that he had taken root on this continent. It was just that after the ancestor's death, there were very few disciples with extraordinary aptitudes in their clan. In addition, the several sets of cultivation methods that the patriarch brought from outside the river did not conform to the laws and great daros of this world, so the inheritance of combined cultivation was gradually cut off. The girl's generation was already the 5th generation, and they were completely reduced to a mortal family. The man with the surname Lu ran a blacksmith shop. Because he was kind and honest, the quality of his ironware was good, and he never lacked in weight. In the area north of the city, there were many regular customers, and everyone affectionately called him Brother Lu. Although her family was very poor, her daughter managed to find a good job in the capital. She worked as a maid in a marquis's mansion. Her annual salary was not a small amount. Furthermore, she could secretly learn some cultivation techniques. The master also allowed her to do as she pleased and did not restrict her. Sometimes, the man would dream in his heart that one day, his daughter could become a cultivator again and become a superior person, bringing glory to her ancestors. Father, don't be so fierce to me. I'm at the foundation establishment stage now, and my divine sense has been activated, so I can naturally see if it's a demon beast or not. It's just an ordinary cat. The girl said proudly. That's right. It's not easy for our daughter to come back. She hasn't even had a bite of hot food, and you're already so fierce. Besides, our daughter has cultivation base, but do you have it? The mother of the Lu family spoiled her daughter without any principles, and she immediately scolded her husband. I'm just worried that she'll be taken advantage of. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with being careful. Being scolded by his wife, the old man of the Lu family blushed. He seemed to be a little helpless and explained helplessly, Manhan, half a year ago, when the little brother of the Li family of Changel was playing outside the city, he picked up a white fox. He thought it was pretty, clever, and cute, so he brought it home. Who knew that it was a demon beast that had cultivated to the demon core stage? That night, it ate the whole Li family, not even leaving behind a single heart, liver, spleen, or lung. The old man of the Lu family rambled on. The family of 3 stepped on the snow and walked towards the north of the city. The Dragon Whisker Ditch in the north of the city was a real slum. It used to be the sewage channel of Giant Stone City. Later, it was abandoned, and the residents of the lower class gathered there. The dilapidated houses were scattered, and the terrain was extremely low. Over the years, they were covered in snow and ice, and the sewage flowing through them turned into ice crystals. The wooden door, which had been eroded by the wind, snow, and sunlight until the black paint peeled off, revealing the white logs within, was pushed open. The family of 3 passed through the cramped courtyard filled with furnaces and blacksmithing tools, which emitted a faint rusty smell, and walked into a large house. By the way, daughter, didn't you send a message back saying that you can only return home once in 3 years? Why did you suddenly? Did you cause trouble and make the master unhappy? After the old man of the Lu family sat down, he asked worriedly. The white civet cat squatted on the ground and looked at the wind and snow outside the window. It raised its ears as if it was listening to something. No. Lu Manhan smiled and said. The new imperial preceptor, Saint Siqing, moved into the crown prince's mansion and held a housewarming banquet. The marquis and his successor that I serve will also attend the banquet. Moreover, the banquet will be very grand. It will be a banquet that lasts for 10 days and 10 nights. During this period, the master won't return home, so there's no need for us to serve him. She poured herself a cup of tea and gulped it down. Wiping her mouth, she smiled and said, Moreover, the imperial preceptor's ascension to the throne is also a celebration. We all have to take 10 days off. Therefore, the master gave us, the servants, a holiday to visit the family. The new imperial preceptor. Mr. and Mrs. Lu did not take it to heart after hearing it. This kind of big shot was too far away from them. In fact, they had never heard of the name Saint Siqing. The mountains and rivers here were dangerous, and the people's livelihood was poor. There were few people, and even news was very limited. However, seeing that their daughter didn't cause any trouble, they were relieved. Knock, knock, knock. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Manhan, you're back? Where is he? Following the cheers, a 15 or 16-year-old boy ran into the courtyard excitedly. It's Kongcheng. In the years that you weren't around, he talked about you every day. The Lu couple immediately revealed a kind smile and said to their daughter. They hurriedly opened the door and let the boy in. This boy was their neighbor. His name was Kongcheng. The ancestor of the Kong family was also an extragalactic cultivator. He had a close relationship with the Lu family's ancestor. They used to travel all over the empire to make a living together. They killed demon beasts together and fought bandits together. They were people who could trust each other with their backs. However, after 1,000 years, the Kong family was no longer as glorious as it used to be. The Kong family's father was a hunter, and the Kong family's mother worked as a maid in a rich family. She usually sewed and mended clothes to supplement the family's income. The two families had been friends for generations and were neighbors. Naturally, they were close. Kongcheng and Lu Manhen could be said to be childhood sweethearts. They were like siblings. Especially in the past few years when Lu Manhen was in the capital, Kongcheng had been helping the Lu family. When the old couple was injured or sick, he was the one who ran around to get medicine. If there were any hooligans who wanted to bully them, he was the one who protected them and stood up for them. Chapter 1984. Kongcheng, you've grown taller. Seeing Kongcheng enter, Lu Manhen suddenly stood up, her face full of joy. She quickly walked up to him, wanting to hug him, but then retracted her hands. She suddenly realized that they were no longer children. They were all grown up, and there was a difference between men and women. Sister Manhen, you've also grown taller and prettier. Kongcheng scratched his head in embarrassment, his face slightly red. His eyes were filled with surprise, love, and affection. The big sister next door had actually become so beautiful. A subtle feeling also rippled in the youth's heart. Kongcheng, come and sit. Father Lu picked up a pair of metal tongs and opened the stove. The high-quality silver charcoal inside immediately turned red, emitting scorching energy. This silver charcoal was formed by the fossilization of silver fir wood from ancient times. It emitted a scorching primordial qi that could resist the invasion of the harsh primordial qi and precepts of this place. It had to be burned for a while a day, otherwise, the house would immediately turn into ice. Of course, it was also very expensive. Half of the Lu family's income was spent on this. Child, eat. The Lu family's mother also served some ginger tea and snacks. Thank you, uncle and aunt. The four of them chatted for a while, gradually closing the distance between them. Kongcheng was most curious about the outside world, so he kept asking questions, showing the curiosity of a youth. Lu Manhen slowly described the magnificent capital city, the prosperous life, and the countless cultivators. This made Kongcheng envious. The more he listened, the more excited he became. His eyes lit up as he clenched his fists and said excitedly, "Tonight, I'll talk to Father. I also want to leave Boulder City and go to the capital. I want to see the bigger world." However, Lu Manhen did not say that she had already reached the foundation establishment stage, because she knew that Kongcheng had always wanted to cultivate. However, he did not have the opportunity to join any sect, nor did he have the opportunity to enter the Capital Institute. Because the empire did not have an institute. The system of the empire was hereditary. The family ruled the world, not the empire. The imperial power was weak. The 6 departments of the imperial court, as well as the official positions, were only equivalent to sending out representatives. In the territories of the vassals, they did not have any law enforcement power. There was no government-run institute for the commoners. The promotion channels for the lower-class people were almost completely blocked. Not everyone was so lucky as to be able to find a job in a feudal lord's mansion and be able to get close to cultivators like him. Moreover, this marquis was a good-tempered and benevolent person. He didn't care about his own cultivation and just let him do as he pleased. Only the rise of the imperial tutor, Sage Sicheng, gave her a glimmer of hope, because he was also an extragalactic cultivator. Many extragalactic cultivators were spreading rumors that the imperial preceptor would implement a series of new policies that would benefit the extragalactic cultivators. Moreover, some of them had already been implemented. "You just came back, so I'll treat you to a meal. Let's go to the Pines and Cranes." When the sky gradually darkened, Kongqing suddenly got up and invited him with a smile. Building of pines and cranes? It's so expensive. This child, your father earned some money from hunting. It's not easy. Don't waste it. Old man Lu hurriedly stopped him and nagged, I'll cook. I'll roast a chicken and some snow lotus vegetables. Your father even sent over a deer leg some time ago. I'll make some bacon for it. After steaming it, it'll be another good dish. I'll heat up a pot of wine. This. When he said this, Kongqing blushed and flushed. He was in a dilemma. In his heart, he wanted to treat Lu Manhen to a meal. There were many things he wanted to ask her, and many things he wanted to tell her. Moreover, the money he used was earned from his hard work outside, not from his father. However, he was indeed a loyal, filial, and righteous child. He knew that in order to maintain the family's livelihood, his father often suffered. In order to save money, when his mother sewed alone at home, she couldn't even bear to burn silver charcoal. She was so cold that her hands were full of frostbite. Should he eat at home? Old man, are you confused? Kongqing looks at your orange face all day long. Hasn't he seen enough? What's there to eat with you? Let's eat outside. Mother Lu suddenly pinched her husband and scolded. Oh, yes. You two haven't seen each other for a few years. Let's talk about something personal. Old man Lu immediately understood and laughed. However, Mother Lu called her daughter into the room and took out a small cloth bag from the cabinet. Inside it were a few scattered pieces of low-grade crystals. She said, Daughter, you must not let Kongqing spend money. He has helped our family a lot over the years. Take this money. It should be enough for a meal. Mother, I have money. Lu Manhen hurriedly refused. The cost of living in the capital is high. Moreover, we are registered as rogue cultivators outside the Milky Way. We don't get the same pay for equal work. Your salary is low, can you save money? Her mother asked worriedly. The royal family was the noblest, followed by the feudal lords. Below them were the civil officials, generals, and commoners. However, all the natives were higher than the cultivators outside the Milky Way. The first generation of rogue cultivators outside the Milky Way, and the first 5 generations of rogue cultivators all indicated that even if they did the same work as the native cultivators and did the same amount of work, they often received only 1/3 of the latter's pay, or even less. At least in the capital, the residents outside the Milky Way and the natives already get the same pay for equal work. Lu Manhen said half jokingly. Moreover, the feudal lord I serve is also a man who takes advantage of the situation. In order to please the state preceptor, before the holidays, he increased my salary for the past few years by several times. Now I have tens of thousands of low-grade crystals on me. So much money. Mother Lu immediately fell into a state of ecstasy and shock. She then grabbed her daughter's sleeve and asked in confusion, But why did you say that the Duke increased your reward in order to curry favor with the state preceptor? Hey, because the state preceptor is a rogue cultivator outside the Milky Way. Rumor has it that he comes from the Black Sun Star Field. Lu Manhen smiled proudly and said, And we are also from the Black Sun Star Field. When the feudal lord saw the state preceptor, wouldn't the state preceptor be very happy? After all, the feudal lord also took care of his fellow countrymen. Ah, is there such an amazing genius in the Black Sun Star Field? He actually reached the position of state preceptor. Mother Lu was shocked. Just now I gave this civet some deer leg meat, but it didn't eat it. What a picky eater. I can't even bear to eat it myself. I have to eat it with wine. When Lu Manhen turned to leave, she heard her father grumbling. It understands human nature. It probably wants to eat the good food in the building of pines and cranes. Lu Manhen picked up the big white civet and walked out of the door with a smile. Look at it. It's so smooth. At first glance, you can tell that it comes from a rich family and has never lived a hard life. The leg of a water deer is too disgusting for him to eat. This is inviting a lord back. Father Lu sighed helplessly behind her. Chapter 1985. Hee, have you guys heard? Tomorrow night, the Snowdance sect will hold the once-in-a-decade grand competition. This time, It is said that the South and North sects are determined to win the Snowdance Palace. How can those girls from the North sect be a match for those animals from the South sect? If I remember correctly, the North sect has not won in the past 60 years. Every dog has its day. It is said that in these years, Madame Huju of the North sect has opened the mountain gate and recruited disciples. She has accepted a few disciples with good strength. There is hope to challenge the South sect successfully. Who cares? No matter who lives in it. That Snowdance Palace is not for us to live in. It's nothing more than a group of men replaced by a group of women. I hope that the girls from the North sect win this match. I heard that they all have skin of ice and bones of jade, peerless beauty, and peerless beauty. Moreover, they are pure and unblemished. The noble children of the empire like to marry their disciples. If only I had the chance to take a look. What qualifications do you have to take a look? You have to be at least at the foundation establishment realm to be qualified. In the building of pines and cranes, Jiang Tian, who had transformed into a raccoon, sat cross-legged on a chair with his eyes closed and snoring loudly. However, his ears were raised and he silently listened to the discussions around him. There was no other way. Kong Cheng, this silly child, was too enthusiastic. He kept feeding it. In order to calm his Tao heart and lengthen the journey of becoming immortal, Jiang Tian's original body lingered in the mortal world. However, Jiang Tian was extraordinary and even more detached than Jiang Tian's original body. It was his ideal incarnation, the future direction, the goal he pursued, infinitely close to the soul formation realm, and had the characteristics of a saint. How could he eat these mortal things? It was simply torture. Only by pretending to be asleep could this kid stop. It was just that along the way, as well as in the building of pines and cranes, what he heard the most was about the Snowdance Sect Grand Competition. The winner of this grand competition would enter the Snowdance Hall. The loser would have to leave, be displaced, and find another place to settle down. This Snowdance sect was only a small sect in the northern part of the empire. Compared to a colossus like the ancient medicine hall, it was like an earthworm compared to a true dragon. The sect leader was only at the peak of the nascent soul stage, and most of his disciples were only at the golden core stage. Snowy Dance Sect, proficient in ice and snow cultivation methods, with skin of ice and bones of jade, a stunning beauty, he only said, "Dao me." When Jiang Tian heard this, many pieces of information connected together in his mind. In a flash, the memories of his past life, that he shared with Jiang Tian's true body were also suddenly awakened. Some hidden memories surfaced. This year in his previous life, during the Snowdance Palace competition, a master suddenly broke in and killed all the women of the northern sect after defiling them. The others weren't spared as well, and they were all annihilated. The Lotus Harvester was done by Yang Dingtian. However, the Snowdance sect was originally a small sect. There were at least 10,000 of them in the empire. Naturally, this matter was drowned in the vast history books. Even Jiang Tian could not think of it in an instant. After all, he had lived for a long time. In his previous life he had stayed in this world for a long time. There were many things to do, and the information was jumbled up. How could he remember in an instant? Sigh, if only I could go and take a look. When Kong Cheng heard the surrounding discussions, he couldn't help but let out a long sigh and was filled with yearning. He already knew that apart from inviting some experts from the Northern Territory to spectate the competition, there were also some quotas that were open to the public. However, these quotas weren't something that could be obtained by just anyone. One either had to pay 100,000 crystals, or have a cultivation that was above the nascent soul realm. And Kong Cheng naturally didn't have either of these. However, at this moment, a luxuriously dressed youth walked in sloppily. There were 7 or 8 bodyguards following behind him. Each of them had a strict aura and had a cultivation. This young man was quite handsome, but his eyes were sinister, giving people a feeling of viciousness and cunning. He was wearing a white mink coat, but he was still waving a folding fan in his hand in the cold weather. He was labeled as pretentious and showy. "Oh, isn't this young Master Bai? Welcome, welcome. There's a private room upstairs." A waiter's face was filled with joy as he bowed and welcomed him. "Young Master Bai. Young Master Bai is here for a meal." Everyone present stood up and greeted him warmly. Their eyes were either fearful or fawning. This young master Bai was the son of the city lord of Boulder City, Bai Yulong. He was a distant relative of the Northern Territory Duke, and had a cultivation level. He was a golden core cultivator. In the local area, no one dared to provoke him. However, the moment Kong Chung saw that it was young Master Bai, his face was filled with fear, and his body trembled slightly. 3 years ago, the Liu family's father had forged a batch of armor for the Bai family's private soldiers. The Bai family owed the wages, and Kong Chung helped to ask for them. Coincidentally, young Master Bai happened to see him, and he was almost beaten to death. Kong Chung had been lying in bed for half a year before he regained his senses. "What's wrong, Kong Chung?" Liu Manhen asked softly, a look of worry and surprise on her face. "Nothing. Eat." The stubborn youth didn't want to show weakness and fear in front of the girl he loved. He forced a smile and pretended to be calm as he picked up food for the girl. "Everyone eat and drink well." Young Master Bai and Bai Yulong did not notice the existence of the two people. They casually cupped their hands and greeted in a circle. Suddenly, he took out 2 gilded invitations from the storage ring, patted them in his hand, and said with a smile, "Everyone who wants the tickets to the Snow Dance Palace competition. I have a surplus here, hee." As soon as his voice fell, the crowd suddenly became restless. Immediately, a young man dressed as a noble young master stood up and said, "Young Master Bai, I offer 30,000 low-grade crystals. I wonder if you are willing to part with one? 30,000? Brother, have you just woken up from a dream?" Next to him, a guest dressed as a rich businessman immediately shouted, "This is the Snow Dance Sect competition. The participants are all stunning beauties with powerful cultivation. Not only is it highly ornamental, but it can also increase one's knowledge, stimulate one's potential, and achieve the ultimate sublimation. How much is it? Let's not talk about it. The highest bidder gets it," Bai Yulong said with a smile. 100,000 low-grade crystals won, give it to me, and 150,000 for an invitation. I offer 200,000, I want one. For a time the whole place was filled with the sound of bidding. Is this the charm of cultivation? When Kong Chung heard this, he could not help but be stunned and speechless. He deeply felt that it was worth coming to the building of pines and cranes this time. It was an eye-opener. An invitation to watch the competition was actually worth 20 years of his family's income. If he did not see it with his own eyes, he would not dare to believe it. A moment later, the 2 invitations were bought by a rich businessman with gold core cultivation at a high price of 500,000 low-grade crystals. This small auction was considered to have come to an end. "Sister Manhen, I heard that to join a cultivation sect like the Snow Dance sect, one has to pay 1,000,000 low-grade crystals a year. I don't know if it's true or not." Seeing that Bai Yulong was about to leave, the young man relaxed and asked with bright eyes. He was full of curiosity about the cultivation world. Indeed. After all, Liu Manhen had stayed in the capital and had seen more. She smiled gently. Because there is a conflict between the North and South factions within the Snow Dance sect, they are all expanding and recruiting talents, so the standard of worship is lowered. In fact, under normal circumstances, if you want to join such a sect, you have to pay several times more. Sigh. I don't know when I can join such a sect and become a cultivator. Kong Chung could not help but sigh. However, at this time, a voice full of sarcasm suddenly sounded beside him. Isn't this Kong Chung of the Hunter family? You've recovered quite quickly, you can get out of bed already. But who is this beauty beside you? Can you introduce her to me? When he turned his head and saw Bai Yulong's malicious smile, Kong Cheng's heart fell into the 9 nether abyss. Chapter 1986. Bai Yulong was a famous playboy. He often kidnapped women on the street, humiliated them, and even tortured them to death. His reputation was even worse than that of the Lotus Harvester. Not to mention that he was the son of the city lord and a distant relative of the Duke of Beijiang. Even if he did not have any cultivation, he could not afford to offend him. Besides, he was a golden core cultivator. He could turn a criminal like him into meat paste with one slap. This is my neighbor Lu Manhen. Kongqing introduced her reluctantly. Young Master Bai, we're done eating. We'll leave first. Enjoy your meal. Kongqing's heart was full of worry and fear. He did not want to stay any longer. He forced a smile, threw down a piece of low-grade crystal, and pulled Lu Manhen away. There's also a civet cat. Lu Manhen wanted to pick up the civet cat, but it had already jumped onto her shoulder. Wait. However, Bai Yulong's body swayed and he stood in front of the two of them. He released his immense aura of the Aura's core stage, which was vast and mighty. Kongqing could not withstand it at all. He stumbled back like a withered leaf in the midst of a raging storm. Lu Manhen could still hold on. She looked unhappy and frowned. Young Master Bai, what do you want? You actually have a cultivation base? Chi refinement? Foundation establishment. You're really talented and beautiful. Bai Yulong praised with a smile. His triangular eyes were full of greed, and his gaze wandered over Lu Manhen's curvaceous body. He shook his folding fan and said with a smile, You seem to be interested in the snow dance competition. You seem to be very interested in the snow dance sect grand competition. To be honest, I have the same intention. Why don't you come with me to watch the competition? Isn't it a good thing to improve your cultivation and knowledge together? Besides, I know some experts in the snow dance sect. I can introduce them to you. He was not an idiot. He obviously coveted Lu Manhen's beauty, but his words were so dignified that it was difficult to refuse. Thank you for your kindness, young Master Bai. However, I just returned home and have to accompany my parents. I can't go. However, Lu Manhen knew clearly what he meant. Her pretty face tightened, and she declined politely. Without waiting for Bai Yulong to react, he hurriedly pulled Kongqing away. Wait. Bai Yulong stretched out his hand and his true essence surged. The might of a golden core perfected lord was unleashed, and he pulled the two of them back, as if he was controlling them. Run. Wonderful. He wrapped his arm around Lu Manhen's slender waist, his right hand reaching into the girl's clothes, his hands moving up and down, revealing an expression of extreme enjoyment. Master Bai, you've gone too far. What do you want? Kongqing fell to the ground and crawled to his feet. He glared at Bai Yulong and shouted angrily, but his words came to an abrupt halt. The other party had already made a move. Was there a need to ask what the other party wanted? His beloved goddess was blasphemed right in front of his face. Kongqing was overwhelmed with shock and anger. He was completely stunned. Blood rushed to his head, and the veins on his forehead were throbbing. Everything in front of him seemed to have turned red. Everyone, are you all full? Please make way. Disperse, disperse. Guys, get out of here as well. Master Bai has booked the whole place today. Bai Yulong's companions were already used to this, and they cleared the place with ease. Yes, 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 we'll take our leave. Master Bai, enjoy yourself and have a beautiful night. Many rich businessmen and young masters cupped their fists and left. They were cold and indifferent, and they even made harmless jokes. The social class of the empire was torn apart not only between the nobles and the commoners, but also within the commoners. The joy and sorrow of different social classes were not the same. The difference in distance between social classes was even greater than that between different species. In their eyes, Kongqing and Lu Manhen, the descendants of poor cultivators from beyond the Milky Way, were not of the same kind. So what if they were insulted? Even if they were killed, so what? Kongqing, save me. Only then did Lu Manhen realize the huge gap between Foundation Establishment and Golden Core cultivators. It was like a chasm between heaven and earth. In the hands of the other party, she was very proud of herself and could not use the divine power she was proud of. She could not resist or break free at all. Tears filled her eyes and she let out a shrill cry. Kongqing. Lu Manhen's cry was like a bolt of lightning that struck Kongqing's mind, waking him up and dispelling the bloody fog in front of him, allowing him to see the reality clearly. Like a drunk person, his mind was in a mess. Kongqing did not know how he picked up a chair, rushed to Bai Yulong's side and smashed it down. He also did not know how Bai Yulong summoned his true essence and sent him flying more than 10 meters away in an instant, blood spurting from his mouth and nose. So smooth. In the midst of the chaos, huge feet stomped down fiercely, as heavy as a mountain. With every stomp, Kong Cheng felt his bones shatter. In the midst of the chaos, he heard Bai Yulong's mocking voice. No one noticed that when the raccoon landed silently on the ground, its cold eyes suddenly lit up with a blazing light, looking even more eerie. Under this flash of light, an invisible wave of mana enveloped the building of pines and cranes, causing the area to suddenly darken. It was as if the clouds had covered the moon, and the heavenly secrets were blocked. No one could see the inside story. Sister Manhen. It's a pity that I'm not a cultivator. Through the gaps between the figures, Kong Cheng could see that Lu Manhen had been stripped naked and was being pressed down by Bai Yulong. Bai Yulong was actually doing that in the main hall. Haha, does it feel good, Aunt? Bai Yulong's mind was twisted, and he had a wicked sense of humor. As he moved, he observed Kong Cheng's reaction, as if he wanted Kong Cheng to see and admire his painful and twisted expression. Bai Yulong, you're worse than a beast, and your sins are monstrous. One day, you'll suffer retribution and die a horrible death. Waves of dull pain came, but it was not as intense as the pain in his heart. Kong Cheng's eyes were about to split open, and he gritted his teeth. Tears of blood rolled down his cheeks, and he let out a hoarse roar like an injured beast. Kill him. Bai Yulong's cold voice sounded. With a chi-la sound, one of the followers waved his hand, and a sharp wind blade erupted from his palm and slashed towards Kong Cheng. The follower who attacked had a cold expression, and he was full of confidence, as if Kong Cheng was an ant that he could easily crush. He was also an expert at the Golden Core stage, and he was already a perfected cultivator. Of course, this level of cultivation was not obvious in the capital and other places where talents were abundant. But at least in this city, he could be considered an expert, and he was invincible. Not to mention that he was only facing an ordinary person with no cultivation. This world is so ugly, and it's hopeless. Sensing the approach of death, boundless anger appeared in Kong Cheng's heart, and then it was extinguished, and he fell into a deep and impenetrable despair. However, at this moment, crack! A blade aura that pierced through the sky suddenly lit up, and it was like a flash of lightning, instantly illuminating the endless darkness. Ah! The follower suddenly let out a shrill cry. His ghastly armor that was sufficient to resist the bombardment of magic treasures suddenly split open, and then his entire body suddenly exploded. A bloody mist suffused the air as crystalline flesh and blood sprayed down like rain, and it enveloped the entire hall, causing a pungent smell of blood to suffuse the air. Chapter 1987. An expert. Everyone was shocked. They hurriedly took out their weapons, the defensive Dharma artifacts they wore, and the Dharma inscriptions on their armors glowed. They looked around in confusion. Where is he? Even Bai Yulong was scared out of his wits. He stopped moving and wrapped his clothes tightly around himself. He then took out flying swords and circled them around his body. He scanned the surroundings vigilantly. The dead follower was at least a peak-stage Golden Core cultivator, but he was killed in an instant. Not only that, but they didn't even know who did it and how it was done. This meant that the attacker was at least a nascent soul heavenly lord. He was definitely as powerful as him. Everyone looked around. However, other than Bai Yulong's people, only Kong Cheng and Lu Manhen were left in the hall. They didn't have the strength to do that. Who did it? Who is it? Is it a monster? Everyone was frightened. They thought of the legends about the monsters on the snowy mountain and felt uneasy. Drops of cold sweat slid down their foreheads. Fear came from the unknown. I'm right in front of you. The white civet cat spoke in human language. Its voice was so loud that it seemed to come from the 9 heavens. It jumped down from the beam and walked 2 steps. Although it was a cat, its footsteps were vigorous and extraordinary. The laziness it had a moment ago was gone. It's a demonic cat. It hasn't even transformed. How can it have the strength of a nascent soul cultivator? Some of the experts were enlightened and heaved a sigh of relief. Some were even more confused. Anyway, they weren't as scared and uneasy as they were before. It's just a 4-legged, long-haired beast. I'm afraid it has only formed a monster core, and hasn't transformed its nascent soul. The Bai family has killed many such beasts. Bai Yulong sneered. He seemed to be encouraging his followers and comforting himself. Oh, is that so? The white civet cat's eyes were cold and deep. It approached the crowd as if it was taking a stroll. He was clearly a demonic beast, but everyone suddenly felt that he was high and mighty, as if he was a god that sat above the 9 heavens and looked down on all living beings. As he approached, under the horrified gazes of the crowd, the body of the white civet cat gradually grew larger. Suddenly, it stood up like a human and turned into a young man in white with an ethereal aura. This young man's appearance was extremely handsome, and his aura was ethereal, otherworldly, and extraordinary. He gave others an extremely divine feeling, and he was like a god that had descended into the world. A nascent soul great demon. Everyone's expression changed, and they trembled in fear as they retreated. It's actually... Bai Yulong was so regretful that he wanted to slap his thigh and break it. He was so shocked that cold sweat broke out on his forehead and he could barely stand. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that a girl from a poor family like Lu Manhan would be able to raise a nascent soul demon. It was as inconceivable as seeing a girl who couldn't even fill her stomach on earth raise a Bengal tiger. He cursed in his heart. This time, he had kicked an iron plate. If he was not careful, he might not even be able to keep his life. Senior, I would like to make a deal with you. Bai Yulong forced himself to calm down. He forced a smile and cupped his fists, trying to persuade Jiang Tian with his glib tongue. Whether it was threats or temptations, there was always a chance that he could live. After all, he was a collateral member of the Bai family of the Duke of Beijiang. The Bai family was extremely powerful, and was known for their vengeance. Even demonic beasts were not willing to offend the Bai family. Otherwise, the Bai family would seek revenge, even if they had to go to the heavens to avenge their clan. Over the years, the Bai family had destroyed more than hundreds of demonic beast lairs. Therefore, he thought that as long as he stated his strength, this demonic cat would definitely retreat. I've already let your master go, and she hasn't suffered any substantial injuries. Why do you have to do this? However, before he could finish his sentence, Jiang Tian had already made his move. His jade-white and translucent right hand, which was like fine jade, stretched out without the slightest trace of smoke or fire. He tapped the air. Bang! Bai Yulong's head exploded. Red and white matter and divine soul fragments spread out in the air like blooming fireworks. Then his neck, chest, limbs, and even the golden core that was said to be indestructible exploded one after another, splashing in all directions. Before Bai Yulong died, there was still a look of endless shock on his face. It was as if he could not believe that his opponent would be so ruthless and decisive, killing him before he could even finish his sentence. Before the remains of his flesh and blood could spread out, they turned into plumes of green smoke and ashes and dissipated into nothingness. Only his folding fan, jade pendant, storage ring, and other items were left behind. They fell to the ground. It was as if Bai Yulong had never existed in this world. Senior, I know I was wrong. Please spare my life. I'm not a bad person. I have a mother and a 3-year-old child at home. My wife's health is not good enough and she's sick. I had no choice but to work for Bai Yulong to make a living. I've always hated what that bastard Bai Yulong did. I've tried to persuade him many times, but he wouldn't listen to me. Senior, please forgive me. Just treat me as a fart and let me go. Many of the arrogant followers were scared out of their wits after seeing this. They scrambled to throw away their Dharma artifacts and kneeled on the ground, kowtowing and begging for mercy. Although Bai Yulong's cultivation was similar to that of the dead follower, the fact that he had been killed with a snap of his fingers was even more shocking. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. This was because Bai Yulong had a few defensive Dharma artifacts with him that could withstand the attack of a soul formation stage cultivator. However, his surging Dharma power did not explode at all. It was as if the runes had been obliterated and imprisoned. Because of this, they could not understand Jiang Tian's strength at all. However, they knew that even if all of them worked together, they wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. In the face of their pitiful begging, Jiang Tian did not bat an eyelid. His eyes were cold and he did not hesitate at all. He waved his hand and flicked his fingers as if he was playing a pipa. Bang, bang, bang. A series of explosions sounded one after another. All of the followers exploded and turned into green smoke, drifting into the void. Thank you for saving my life, Senior. I will never forget your kindness. Only at this moment did Lu Manhan come to her senses. She straightened her clothes, tidied her hair, and respectfully bowed before Jiang Tian. Senior, please teach me the cultivation method. Kong Qing also came to his senses and knelt down in excitement. He kowtowed 3 times and bowed 9 times in gratitude and reverence. Jiang Tian calmly accepted their 3 kowtows and 9 kowtows. Then he casually grabbed the item left behind by Bai Yulong. Then, under the incredulous gaze of the two, he turned into the appearance of Bai Yulong. His eyebrows and eyes moved, and he grinned and puffed up his cheeks. It seemed that he wanted to make his facial features, which had been stiff for a long time, become flexible. After a while, Jiang Tian chuckled and waved his folding fan lightly. He said in a frivolous tone, "That's right. From now on I am Bai Yulong, the son of the city lord. You two come with me to watch the snow dance sect competition. In the competition, Bai Yulong, who has tender feelings for the fairer sex, will help those in danger and help those in distress. He will be chivalrous and fight with the Lotus Harvester. You two, when the time comes, you must be a witness." "Yes, Senior." "No, Master Bai." Lu Manhan and Kong Qing were confused. They did not know what Jiang Tian was up to. But in any case, Jiang Tian had saved their lives. They must repay this kindness. Of course, they would listen to him. Chapter 1988. On the other side. The Imperial City. For the past few days, the area around the Imperial Advisor's residence, or rather, the entire Imperial City, was unprecedentedly lively. From the eastern gorge, the west ridge, the northern borderline, the southern basin, all over the country, the dukes and their heirs, the city lords, and the big shots of the aristocratic families came one after another. Even the neighboring Black Moon Empire sent many big shots. This housewarming banquet had exceeded Lin Dian's imagination from the very beginning. When she arrived at the Imperial Advisor's residence, she saw many dazzling flying boats, cloud towers, and immortal birds and spirit beasts landing on the square in front of the gate. Qilin beasts, cheongqis, and even flood dragons, blue phoenixes, white cranes, and peacocks were used as mounts. Many of them had reached the nascent soul realm, and their strength was not inferior to hers. Those flying boats and cloud towers were all priceless, and none of them were lower than doctrine artifacts. Looking at their Dao patterns and forging styles, some of them came from the nobles and the royal family's blacksmithing shops, while others came from famous sects and other empires. Many guests had arrived, but more were still on their way. Streaks of dazzling light that shook the sky suddenly descended from the city tower of the royal capital and turned into aircraft. After being checked by the city defense, they turned into long rainbows again and flew in the direction of the Grand Preceptor's mansion. Oh my God, the housewarming banquet of the Imperial Advisor's residence is so grand. So many doctrine artifacts and true artifacts. There are countless of them. In the Imperial City, countless residents looked up and felt the vast waves of Dharma power. Looking at the majestic flying boats, they were shocked. Not only the marquises of the empire came to congratulate us, but even other countries sent special envoys. What's more, some hidden sects are also here. Someone said excitedly with a red face. I heard that the 9 mysteries sect's Saintess Fairy Qingjue is here. This is giving too much face. Is it? Not only that, but the ancient medicine hall is also here. An elder Gu is here. The Imperial Advisor's housewarming banquet is a cause for celebration. Everyone was extremely excited, and some people even took out fireworks and firecrackers and set them off as if it was a festival. Thousands of countries and sects are here to congratulate us. I heard that even the Crown Prince of the Black Moon Empire in the south is here. This was simply an unprecedented and glorious occasion. This was an unprecedented honor. This sage teaching has brought glory to our empire. Brothers, this golden age will be as you wish. In an old tavern, a lame veteran suddenly gulped down a mouthful of strong liquor. His eyes were slightly red as tears streamed down his face, Yes. It was said that Saint Siqing's strength was earth-shattering. She could stand shoulder to shoulder with the giants of the sacred ground divine sect. She was not inferior to the old saints of the royal family. Furthermore, he is still young and vigorous, and in his prime. After he becomes the national advisor, he will definitely bring unimaginable changes and development to the empire. As a matter of fact, after hearing that the royal master was a rogue cultivator from beyond the Milky Way, the natives of the empire were very resistant and unconvinced. Everyone in the streets, taverns, and tea houses were talking about him, belittling and disdaining him in various ways. What unknown origin, using underhanded means to get to the top, harboring evil intentions that would cause chaos in the empire. What do you mean by, if one's virtue does not match his position, there will be calamities? This was especially true for the diehards within the royal family, who had all sorts of criticisms. Even if they knew that the feudal lords were rising, and that the royal family was weak and precarious, they were still conservative and thought highly of themselves. They looked down on the common people and immigrants, and were unwilling to introduce new blood. However, when they saw the scene of countless experts coming to congratulate him, the direction of the wind unconsciously changed. The first to agree with Jiang Tian were the common people, followed by the nobles and officials, and in the end, even the diehards in the royal family had to admit the terrifying influence of Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian had transformed from a lowly rogue cultivator from outside the Milky Way galaxy to a peerless giant. He had become a peerless genius, and had even become the hope of the empire. The common people are like frogs at the bottom of a well, ants under a leaf. You are narrow-minded. How can you know Jiang Siqing's strength? I have seen it with my own eyes. Lin Dyer, who had sensed these discussions with her divine sense, also secretly sneered with a sense of superiority and scoffed. However, when she realized that she was proud to have seen Jiang Tian's strength, she felt a wave of disgust in her heart and thought with a sense of superiority. What bullshit imperial tutor saint, they are all supported by our Lin family. Looking at it, Fang Goyu could not help but feel shocked. She originally thought that only the feudal lords had come to congratulate him, but she did not expect that other empires, hidden sects, and even some holy lands had sent people to congratulate him. It seems that I have underestimated the influence of Saint Siqing, Fang Goyu said in shock. At this time, she was strolling around the residence with the Lin siblings. The imperial tutor's residence was too big. It had been rebuilt from the crown prince's residence, and it had also merged with the residences of several princes next to it. There were so many sceneries that one would not get tired of walking around for 3 days and 3 nights. Many of the sceneries were made up of spiritual herbs and spirit-gathering formations, which were beneficial to one's cultivation. Yes, amazing! Lin Yang was very happy for Jiang Tian and said proudly, "When I first saw him, I felt that he was extraordinary. Now look at this, his name has shaken the continent, and he can be called an unparalleled giant. My foresight is not bad." Although Lin Dai did not speak, she was secretly shocked. She originally thought that Jiang Tian could not suppress the many dukes and marquises, but now she had to admit that Jiang Tian might really be able to realize the reform of the county system. Brother Lin's sister Goyu, sister Dai a soft and pleasant voice sounded. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young girl walking through the forest. The young girl was tall and graceful with exquisite curves. She wore a passionate and hot red dress. Her facial features were exquisite. Her skin was snowy white, her lips were red like flames, and her big watery eyes seemed to be able to speak. She was sexy and cute at the same time. She could be called a stunner. The daughter of the Duke of Eastern Gorge, Long Juxue. Fang Goyu was on guard. This was because the Duke of Eastern Gorge's Long family had been close to the Duke of Beijiang and the Marquis of Purple Robe, but had been estranged from the Fang family and the Lin family. Moreover, Long Juxue was extremely beautiful and was sought after by Zhan Yun, Yang Xian, and other heirs, forming a small group that took pleasure in trampling on Lin Yang. Although Fang Goyu looked at the big picture and did not care about these small disputes, it was enough to see their attitude toward the Lin family. Although Fang Goyu was on guard, her face was full of smiles. She said enthusiastically, "Sister Shui, Your face is rosy, as if the cold poison in your body has been completely expelled. Congratulations. Yes. This matter is all thanks to Sage Siqing. Yes. Long Jiuxue curtsied elegantly and said with a smile, back in Icebound City, at the branch of the ancient medicine hall, I wanted to buy the falling sunstone for treatment, but it was bought by the sage. Later, we asked to see an alchemy master, and found out that the falling sunstone's fire poison was extremely strong, and could not treat the cold poison in my body. Moreover, the jealousy poison would attack my heart, and cause my body to explode and die. I originally wanted to thank Sage Siqing properly, but the sage is now the teacher of a country, and has many affairs to attend to every day. How could I have the chance to meet her? I can only return this favor to you. After the housewarming banquet, I will invite the three of you to another banquet. Her beautiful eyes were kind, and she was extremely amiable. She was good with money, and she was two-faced. Compared to her usual arrogant and conceited self, she was like a completely different person. Chapter 1989. Don't try to curry favor with me. Back then, you didn't spare the Lin family. Lin Dai's face was frosty as she mocked her. Sister Dai, you may not know this, but you are beautiful and talented. I have idolized you since you were a child, but I was jealous, so I targeted you time and time again. But now I understand that I was too young and ignorant. Long Jiuxue was ashamed, and her eyes even reddened. Ahem, Sister Shui, you are exaggerating. Beside her, Fang Goyu was smiling, but she was even more vigilant. Long Jiuxue was jealous of Lin Dai. This could deceive ghosts, but it was disgusting to deceive people. In terms of background, Long Jiuxue was the heir of a duke ranked in the top 4, and her family's wealth and power were more than 10 times that of the Lin family. In terms of cultivation, Long Jiuxue could also be called a female genius of the empire, and was on par with Fang Goyu, leaving Lin Dai far behind. In terms of appearance, Long Jiuxue was famous all over the world, and many heirs of dukes and marquises regarded her as a goddess, while Lin Dai was far from her. One who was unaccountably solicitous was hiding evil intentions. She felt that Long Jiuxue had suppressed her arrogant and domineering personality, and was trying to curry favor with Lin Dai. She also hoped that Lin Dai wouldn't fall for it. But Lin Dai was too vain and didn't know her own worth. Long Jiuxue's words were like scratching an itch, making her feel so comfortable that all her bones felt lighter. Long Jiuxue is jealous of me. Now she wants to idolize me and follow in my footsteps. It's not that I can't forgive her. Lin Dai thought, and the frost on her face receded, as if spring had returned to the earth. Long Jiuxue flattered her again, and gave her 2 jade hairpins bought from the imperial treasury. Lin Dai had already begun to call Long Jiuxue sister, and they were just short of becoming sworn brothers. Brother Lin, Sister Goyu, let's walk around. I will introduce a few sisters to Sister Dai. They also idolize Sister Dai. Long Jiuxue said. Okay. Lin Dai simply could not resist the feeling of being the center of attention. Over the years, the Zhenyuan Marquis Lin family had been living in the cracks, oppressed by the purple-robed Marquis, and facing the danger of being annexed and invaded at all times. She was extremely jittery, and she felt as if every tree and grass was an enemy. She was extremely careful all day long as if she was walking on thin ice, and she felt extremely depressed in her heart. Most importantly, she'd suffered too many setbacks in front of Jiang Tian in recent days, and she was extremely frustrated and anxious in her heart. She really wanted to take a breather and enjoy the adoration and flattery of others. Yes, I'll be right back. Lin Dai left with Long Jiuxue, and Fang Goyu couldn't stop them even if she wanted to. Watching the two leave, Fang Goyu felt extremely helpless towards this foolish sister-in-law of hers. She frowned and worriedly said, Lin Yang is not worthy of the position. There will be a disaster. The Lin family's current state was all thanks to the sage's help and care. However, their own strength was not enough to withstand a single blow. But Dai doesn't understand this and doesn't know her own flaws. I'm worried that she'll be used by Long Jiuxue. What can Long Jushua use her for? Lin Yang didn't take it to heart and said indifferently, I think that Long Jushua might feel that the Lin family has a deep relationship with the sage, so she wants to use us to get closer to Sage Siqing and gain a bit of an advantage in the hidden dragon trials. I hope so, Fang Goyu said helplessly. Long Jushua had a wide circle of friends and brought Lin Dai, to many gatherings. Not only did they meet the heirs of the empire's dukes, but they also met the princes and crown princes of other countries, and even some important figures from the sacred grounds and sections. Everywhere they went, Long Jushua would grandly introduce Lin Dai, and desperately flatter her, not stingy with her praise. Everyone also went with the flow and gave her face, giving her the respect she deserved, and even flattery flew everywhere. The daughter of the Lin family, a genius girl, already a nascent soul cultivator. Her future is limitless. Jin Yuanho is young and vigorous, and his future is bright. The two heirs of the Lin family are both dragons and phoenixes among men. In the hidden dragon trials, they will definitely soar into the sky and crush the other heirs of the dukes and marquises, taking first place. This fief will greatly expand, and maybe they will even become dukes. The Lin family deserves great credit for suppressing the Purple Marquis's rebellion. Lin Dai's ears were filled with such voices. She had never enjoyed such glory as today, being the focus of everyone's attention and being held up high like a peerless pearl. She felt that she had never been in such a good mood since she was born. However, in the bottom of her heart, there was a faint trace of discomfort. Everyone thought so. If the hidden dragon trials followed the old system, my brother and I would definitely be able to take first place and obtain great benefits for the family. But Jiang Siqing, this brainless person, not only did she want to abolish the system of the hidden dragon trials, she even wanted to abolish the dukedom system. Cutting off one's path to wealth is like killing one's parents. Why did Jiang Siqing do all this? It was a thankless task. Was it to curry favor with the Eastern imperial family? The more she thought about it, the angrier she became, and the more she felt that Jiang Tian was unreasonable. In the end, under Long Jushua's recommendation, Lin Dai even met the crown prince of the Black Moon Empire in the south, Wuxiang. Miss Lin, I have long heard of your name and admire you greatly. Seeing you today, I realize that you are like a peerless pearl, a rare treasure. Your reputation is well-deserved. Wu Yachang was tall and straight, mighty and imposing, but he had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, a straight nose and a square mouth. He was extremely handsome, and his manners were quite proper and refined. He smiled before speaking, giving people a feeling of bathing in the spring breeze. His words are too pleasant to hear. His posture is too comfortable. Unlike Jiang Siqing, who is like a stone in a latrine, smelly and hard. He is only good at fighting and killing. In terms of governance, I'm afraid he is not as good as Crown Prince Yachang. Looking at Wu Yachang, Lin Dai was enraptured. Crown Prince Yachang is too kind. I am only the daughter of a marquis. I am not worthy of your praise. The other party's modest and polite attitude made Lin Dai feel flattered. She hurriedly curtsied, showing her tactful and elegant side. Crown Prince Yachang had a powerful cultivation, and was already at the middle stage of the divine transformation realm. Moreover, he had received guidance from an expert, and was a true disciple of a peerless prestigious sect. Behind him, there was more than one saint of the Void Return realm. He was known as one of the 4 great crown princes of the continent, and had the bearing of an overlord. His name was completely superior to Dongfangding's. Even a young and handsome man like Li Yichen could not be compared to him. Virtuous and virtuous, soft on the outside but strong on the inside. If this is not a peerless pearl, what is? Wu Yachang gave up his seat and smiled, making people have a good impression of him, and quickly closing the distance between them. After the guests and the host were seated, Crown Prince Yachang chatted with the 2 girls. He was good at provoking topics, pointing out the world from a strategically advantageous position, and had extraordinary knowledge. Crown Prince Yachang knew everything, from major issues such as the division and unification of the continent and the competition on the path to immortality, to the internal affairs and foreign affairs of various countries, to the minor issues such as cultivation methods, refining tools and refining pills. Moreover, he was good at enlightening people's minds. Many of the doubts in Lin Dai's heart were easily solved and enlightened. This made Lin Dai admire him even more. She felt that Wu Yachang's cultivation and strength might not be as good as Jiang Tian's, but in terms of knowledge he was 10 times or 100 times more knowledgeable than Jiang Tian. In particular, his grasp of the empire's evidence was much deeper than Jiang Tian's. After chatting for a while, Wu Yachang suddenly looked at Lin Dai with a pair of bright eyes and asked, "Miss Lin Dai, are you married?" You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.